Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, my only co-host. He's the only other one that has a little cartoon. It's Tyler. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Good to be here. Good to see everybody.
It's good to have you back. Today, we are going to talk wet elves. We're going to talk about Idoneth Deepkin. So we brought in a heavy hitter, an expert, a skilled player, a man who needs very little introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyways. Konstantinos, how you doing, buddy? It's good to see you.
Thanks for having me, man. So it's great to be here. And I'm reminded of when I met my wife for the first time. She said, "Hi, I'm Natasha." And I was so starstruck that I actually answered back, "Hi, I'm Natasha." That's why I told her. So I'm feeling it right now. I'm like, say your name right. Wait, he already said it. Oh, never mind. Great to be here, man.
So that everybody knows, because I'm not sure. Like, obviously, we've chatted for a long time, right? Because we've all been sort of in various groups talking back and forth about strats, and so you have been you live rent free in my head when I think about competitiveness a lot, and you are and have achieved amazing things with Khorne for a long time. Like, look at Khorne's current win percentage, your win percentage with Khorne 30, 40, 50 points higher than that. That right there is a statement and a testament to your skill at the game. In a very tough scene, I would add. I know how tough your local meta is. But you've also been an IDK fan for a long time. And so when we're doing the IDK review, the Idoneth Deepkin, the Wet Elves, I had to bring in somebody who knew them. Because I'm going to be honest with you right up front. I don't like this army. It doesn't interest me. This is going to be 2 weeks. These are literally the worst 2 books they could release for AOS together. I don't like either of these armies. Neither of them interest me in any way, shape, or form. So, we brought in somebody who really likes them. But first, we've got some news. Tyler, what do we got, buddy?
News. In a miracle, a gift from Games Workshop, I think we actually have something that's not 40K with me on this show for once. Konstantinos, you have a good guess at what this might be.
Oh, yeah. Is it on the screen? Because I don't have the actual screen.
It is on
So
the screen.
look at that thing. Look at that cute baby coming out of the ample beard of a dwarf. And that baby's a hobgrot. Because if you look at the ridges and the nose and the ears, some of the slithers in the Dominion box are actually the same. So that's a little hobgrot baby coming out of a dwarf's beard. It is what it is. It's Chaos Dwarfs. So, yeah.
Okay.
Love it.
Now,
100%.
my only concern here, I first of all, I back this call. Okay, I like this. I love a little hobgrot baby in a dwarf beard. Here's my only concern. It appears that this little baby only has like 3 fingers. Okay. And hobgrot slittas have a normal amount. Well, I don't know. 5 fingers. I don't know what a normal amount of fingers is, I guess, in AOS. Could be more or less in the mortal realms.
In the real world, the average is 4 point something.
Right. If you have 5 fingers, you have higher than the average number of fingers. Yes, correct. But do you consider that at all a challenge to your call because he has less fingers, or do you just think this is a slightly different hobgrot? This one has 3 fingers.
Maybe that's why he's there, because he's special. He's in the beard because, it's a 3-fingered hobgrot. This is an omen or something.
I love it. Well, here's what I'll say. I've been watching a lot of... I finally watched The Mandalorian. It turns out that's a pretty good show. And so if it comes to tiny little, like, 3-fingered cool babies hanging out with hardcore, killers, I'm all for it. So I'm in for this, dude. That's what I'll say. I'm with it. This is my little baby Yoda hobgrot right here, so I love it. All right.
Yep.
What else we got, Tyler?
We had a Warhammer community article on the Arena of Shades battle box. They said it is coming very soon. So by the fact that they're doing an article, maybe it will be. And then that's the Nighthaunt and Daughters of Cain box set that we'll be getting. And hopefully the battle tomes not too long after that.
This one is more interesting to me than our current pairing. Like, I own a Daughter's Army. I don't own ghosts. I think ghosts are beautiful. I just have no interest in the army. But I know Tom loves them, so that's great. And I know Nighthaunt players all seem to be good people. If you're still someone playing Nighthaunt throughout all of Nighthaunt, I like you immediately. Like, we're friends. You're a good type, right? You're a good person. So yeah, this seems cool. I like the tragedy of this is, and the associated book releases is half of these armies desperately needed a book. Half of these armies did not. So here we are.
Yeah.
But that's fine. I'll take it. Cool. Yeah, I'm glad to see them turning so quickly to the new box because honestly, I want them to just let's go, let's ramp. The closer we can get to summer, and what I am predicting is the inevitable release of a Skaven book as our Chaos book, which is only confirmed for me, by the way, with a piece of news you're about to mention. The closer we come to the return of the rule of the Horned Rat, all be praised. So it's just I'm just counting off all these other books until we get to the thing I love.
Thing is that Idoneth and Fireslayers were supposed to be in the winter, and I know people are going to be, well, it's the 21st of March is the last day of, or the first day of spring or whatever. So that means that you're getting your books in the 15th of September. Your summer milestone. Just so you know. Have that in mind.
Don't tell me that.
Sorry.
That's not good news. That's not good news. I'm thinking I'm in my mind it's June 22nd. Like day after the solstice. Boom.
Midsummer. Yep.
That's right. We're going to be out there celebrating the coming of the summer solstice, and then I will walk straight to the game store and buy my book. That's what's going to happen. So, okay. Yeah, they didn't really give any rules or what to expect other than this thing is coming soon, which is fine. We're all excited for cross boos and the inevitable teleporting unit that shoots, probably ignores line of sight and mortal wounds on 6s. So,
Yep, absolutely. Looking forward to it. Khorne Tome Celestial and White Dwarf 474. So I missed the details on this. When is this supposed to be out? When can we pick this up?
I don't know the release date, but it's next month's White Dwarf, which means it's this month's release, right? Like it's, you know how it goes. Like it's, whatever. It's the April issue, so it's available in March in different places. It releases at different times, and it has to do with whether or not you're subscribed. And I don't know.
Yeah, just wait for Twitter. It's fine.
Yeah, it's some kind of weird physical media that apparently we're still supposed to buy. I don't know. I don't understand. But okay, as I mentioned, Konstantinos, you are also a Khorne player. So, what do you want out of the Khorne?
Blood for the blood, my friend. I had to represent.
There it is.
It's my heart. It doesn't say we don't sow or what is dead may never die. It says blood for the blood god. All right?
Sure.
And I am so depressed by these news. I so want this thing to be bad. I so want this to keep with the tradition of being Khorne, like being hurt. So we get more angry. And our anger fuels the blood god. Because I had an Iron Joe's army, and then Nurgle came out, and I have a Nurgle army. I'm like, ooh, cool, Nurgle. And then Idoneth came out, and they are my competitive choice. So I was like, please let it not be Khorne. And it's Khorne. And I don't know what I'm going to do. If it's a good one, if it's a Beast of Chaos one, that's going to be trouble. That is now
the gold standard, right? It's like you've got Sons of Behemoth and Beast of Chaos as like the top two. Those are the gold standard, and then it's down from there. What kind are we getting?
I don't know, man. Can it be like a Cities of Sigmar? Maybe people don't even remember what it was. So like we'll fix it in the tome next year. I just want 2023 to be the year of Khorne. It's gonna be the 8th anniversary of Warhammer Weekly. It keeps with the tradition. So 7 is Nurgle, 8 is Khorne. Just wait for next year. Give that book another pass.
There we go. I find it hilarious. Your mention of the Cities of Sigmar thing. The only people who remember is the people who run Generals on Griffin, because it gave the Griffin the cool ability to pop back to life. That's it. That was 12 pages of article or whatever that had one rule that you're like, oh, cool, a Griffin can pop back to life now. Yes. That's it.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I imagine that much like with, here's what I'll say. I imagine much like with the Herdstone, you will see the Khorne altar, the blood altar or whatever, get a pretty sort of interesting rewrite. I bet they take this chance to sort of play with the rules on that altar in some way. And that because that's sort of a major thing they can alter that one war scroll and really shift things around. That's what the Herdstone showed, right?
I mean, they can change the blood type a little bit, maybe.
Sure.
Or they can make priests really good again, which was a staple of Khorne. And if they don't do that, then the skull altar. I like how you went with blood altar. You're like, it's either blood or skull. Let's go with blood. It's the skull altar. And if they go like, well, priests are not that useful now. It's only for the demon prince, the slaves to darkness, Khorne demon prince, to hang around inside, get the +1 to save and -1 from lookouts or whatever you want. Just make that a thing, like an actual skull altar that gives rend. Because you said, I live rent-free in your mind. I actually live rend-free. Because that army has 0 rend. Maybe -1, mostly 0, that's it.
It's a lot of 0 and 1. Yes, that is for sure. That is for sure.
We'll see how it goes. They do know by now that Khorne lacks, let's say, efficiency or efficacy or whatever you want to say. By now they have noticed.
Unless they were literally only looking at your results, in which case you've ruined it for everybody.
I'll be happy about that. I'm just going to say, nope, just try again next year, though. I have IDK to run right now.
That's fine. There we go.
Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah.
I think we got one more small piece of news. Tyler, you mind if I take this last one?
Take it away.
Okay. Warhammer Weekly Live. That's right, folks. Warhammer Weekly Live. Would you like to be and take part in a live episode of Warhammer Weekly? If so, I have no idea why. But in case you do, you psychopath, you can do so, because at Adepticon, we are going to be doing an episode of Warhammer Weekly Live with a real audience there in front of us. So this will be Wednesday night after the GW live preview show. So like GW does their big preview show. I assume we're going to see some cool stuff. I expect to see rats. I'm talking to you right now, GW. I better see rats. And so we're going to do that show. We have a room. I don't know what the name of the room is, but it's there. It's one of the artist rooms that's down by Fort Wapple. So like, you know, in that artist area on the lower floor. I'm sure you'll know which one it is if you walk over in that area. We'll start the show probably around 10 o'clock Central Time. So that'll be a late night show for everybody who's watching remote. Of course, we will still we'll be broadcasting it. And so just be aware that week of Adepticon, it'll probably be, because the preview show runs from, I think, 8 to 10 Central Standard Time. So, and we won't stay there the whole time. We're going to leave early, set everything up, go. But that means the earliest we can start is sort of once their thing ends at 10 p.m. Central, which is 11 p.m. Eastern. But if you want to, come join us. If you're at Adepticon, it's going to be an awesome time. Yes, it'll be like live in front of a studio audience. And yes, Jonathan, this is also live, I suppose. But like live in person. We'll have a real audience. It's going to be exciting. I am borrowing some Uncle Adam expertise to try to get this setup going, because he is an audio and video expert and I am not, as you know from watching this show. So should be a good time. All right, so look forward to that Wednesday night, the first night of Adepticon live show. It'll be a later show, 11 p.m. Eastern. Tyler, we're trying to force to be there. I expect you to be there, Tyler.
You're really ramping up the pressure campaign. I mean,
Correct.
this is a whole new level. I had no idea this was going on until like, I don't know, maybe the last week. You finally gave me a heads up. Yeah.
I expect you to be there. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well,
So.
that's probably gonna happen now.
Didn't make it, guys. I'm sorry.
We need everybody. We need the triumvirate, the Triforce, assembled
Yeah.
in person.
Some team Tom and team. I don't like saying my name, and that's just weird when you're referring to yourself. So yeah. Now, also another thing, I had no idea you were doing. So, yeah. So you get signed on for exploitation with this show, everybody, and you don't even know about it. It's just part of it.
I mean, yes, obviously. That's
Obviously.
just what happens.
Yep.
But the and of course, don't forget, just our last quick news items. I'll talk through it. Don't forget, the merch store has new merch, including Team Tyler and Team Tom shirts. So you two can vote for who is the better co-host. I will be updating and adding some more items to it in April, so look for that. I've heard some of the feedback of what people want, so there'll be some more items rolling in April, including additional socks. People seem to really love socks, so there'll be more sock designs, stuff like that.
A lot of Team Dog.
Yeah, like there's been a large call for doggo merchandise. Yes, I really am clearly going to need to get some more art requisitioned with like us and the dogs in it or something, as various, like, turn them into corn flesh hounds or something, right? That's the obvious, the best of dogs. So by the way, you might, yeah, one could be a griffhound, one could be a flesh hound, and one could be like a frost saber, because I got 3 dogs. So there you go. Represent kind of a lot of different, represent everybody but Team Death. You may ask yourself right now, Vince, who's winning between Team Tyler and Team Tom? Okay? I want the facts. In the horse race, who's
I can't believe
ahead
you're actually doing this
at this point in time? And the answer is Team Tyler
Team
is
Tom.
ahead right
What?
now. Team
Oh, no.
Tyler is in the lead. So, if
I
you
generally
want to
thought
see
it
Team Tyler
destroyed.
stay in the lead, think about that. If you don't, maybe look at Team Tom. So there you go.
Tom, you've got 6 years on me. You've got all the catchphrases. Come on, Tom. Come on, everybody. This is a little absurd. Yeah, I saw little Marathi. By the way, little Marathi, Marcella, I hope you didn't put this idea in Vince's head. I saw her comment on the last video. I mean, that's just a new level of sadism that I have to deal with here.
I
but
don't remember who
you're
put
probably
the
already-
idea in my head, or if I just thought of it. I don't know.
Knowing you probably already had it in there.
There's been a lot of Twilight retrospectives on YouTube lately, so it might have been that made me think of it. Who knows?
Thank you, James.
At any
That's
rate,
the right choice.
yeah, sure. And then don't forget, of course, we opened up the Patreon, and so that is now live. Thank you to everybody who signed up, who's joined. The community's awesome. The Discord is hopping. Got a lot of people sharing their work and stuff in there. It's a really it's been amazing so far. So if you're interested in supporting the channel on Patreon, that link is also down below. Okay. So, with that, I'll stop spruiking all sorts of stuff and just say, if you don't like any of that, you don't want to spend any money, that's cool. No issue at all, no expectations. You can always just hit that like button or subscribe or do all those free things, and we really appreciate that too. Okay, so let's talk
How about you get me a Team Tom t-shirt for all this exploitation you're putting me through? This nonsense.
You can buy whatever
That
you
way.
want.
Man, you're such a bigger man. Everybody go
everybody.
Team Tyler now. Come on, he's such a big guy. Like, go on. Yep.
All right, let's talk about some pick of the week. Konstantinos, I'm going to have you actually go second, okay? Because Tyler has 8 million picks this week. So Tyler's going to take them and make this very long. So we're going to start with Tyler. Tyler, share with everybody your picks of the week. Everything is linked down in the description, by the way. Go right ahead.
Yes. Oh, I might as well add 2 on top. 2 that I forgot. Cubic Shenanigans, amazing new show on organizing tournaments, which I'm in the midst of right now with the very first one that we're doing here locally. Amazing episode. Nicole and Cassidy they took over Party at the All Points. Great episode. Check them out. Cassidy with Season of War, and Nicole, you know her with the Party at the All Points crew. Both great AOS players, by the way. And then a bunch of War Coda battle reports. This has been incredible to see. Thank you to everybody who have been trying out these battle plans. There's been a bunch of them. I just want to give a shout out. I want to take all the time to go into a lot of details, but Bulldog Hammer, Levon and Yuri, Cinderfall Gaming, Luke over there, Dice Cast, Justin, Nick, and those guys. Hammer of War, I don't know their name, David. I can't remember the names of the other guys over there. Really cool battle reports. Bag of Dice with Rob and some others, and then T3 Wargaming. So obviously that's a bunch, but it's been really cool to see all these games getting played and the feedback that I've been hearing. A couple of one-dayers as well. So I'm coming, guys. It's really helpful and great to see.
Yeah, the War Coda is awesome. Don't forget you can find that on AOS Shorts. I will drop the link for that below. I should have included the link for that as well, Tyler. I'm sorry. I'll make sure to include that down there as well. For the War Coda, don't forget that's 3 additional battle plans that have been worked by Tyler with the input of many other people in the community with lots of feedback. Go ahead.
4 additional.
4 additional battle plans. Yes, thank you. Based on classic battle plans of yore to some degree. And they're a lot of fun. Honestly, Tyler, I'll tell you right now, it's been what I've been doing every weekend. I'll chat about it in Hobby Time, but yeah, we've just been playing through all of them every weekend because we've been looking for a change of scenery, right? And it's been fantastic. So people are really having a good time with them.
The first game of the new Battletome, IDK versus One Tribes. I actually used it.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah.
Yeah. While doing, I mean, I have a lot to thank you for, Constantinos, as well. Obviously, you were involved early on in giving feedback. I appreciate it.
That's nice.
So yeah, appreciate everybody.
All of those many picks that Tyler had are linked down below. All right, Constantinos, what's your pick of the week? What do you got?
I'm so glad that you named about 1.5 billion battle report channels, and you left my pick of the week because, ladies and gentlemen, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, battle report channel number 1, Rerolling Ones, is back with a video of today. All right, technically it's not a battle report, but they're back. That's their first video of the year. I have been pestering Jack, say, so, got any more battle reports, man? What's going on? And he just sent me to say, here's the first video of the year. It's actually a little bit of he went over the 2 Battletomes real quick. It's so great to see them again. When we said that 3.0 makes rerolling ones go away, not those rerolling ones. You're not taking those away. Never. So, yeah, my pick of the week is our friends in Seattle, Rerolling Ones.
Fantastic. Absolutely. That will be linked down below. My picks of the week, I actually included multiple as well, but I will summarize them as this. If this show isn't enough IDK, if you're not pruny from the aethersea just yet, then don't worry. I've linked the Facehammer review, the AOS Coach review, and the Honest Wargamer review all down below. All 3 go into different deep dives of the book. Check them all out. So if you really want to make sure that you're rolling in the deep, well, guess what? There are so many more great people who've covered it. Check out all of those. So you can just spend nothing but the next basically 2 days watching Idoneth Deepkin coverage if this is the dream that you have waited for. Okay. So all of that's linked down below. Check it out. All right. Let's talk about a little bit of hobby time. So hobby time. Constantinos, what's been on your table, man? Is it all IDK all the way down, or what have you been working?
Yeah, pretty much. This little dude, this guy, eels. Spoilers. Eels. They're back on the table. We'll get to that. But
Why are you painting those? They're terrible, Constantinos. They're unplayable now.
yeah, they are.
What are you doing?
That's the tricky part. You'll see.
Yeah, okay,
You
okay.
will see. I really like going back to older models because, like you said in a video like the other day, it's a journey. It's so nice to see things that you have painted back like I think it was 2 years ago when I painted those, and now I'm done with the whole army, so I'm doubling back, and it's nice to see that the theme is there, but we can make it better. So that's what I've been doing, painting heels. Next one on the table is the big guy, Brotan, Lord of the Brosians, coming up soon.
He's so
We'll get
hardcore
there.
now. We're going to talk about him a lot. Yeah, absolutely, boy. He's in it to win it now.
Oh yeah.
I suspect we're about to get a visit. By the way, I could hear the stairs. I think I know what's coming here. So go right ahead, dear.
Tyler, there it is.
Yes.
I
It's
didn't
so
want to
nice
interrupt Constantinos because he's actually nice.
Sure.
If it was Tom, I would totally interrupt Tom. Tyler, I also like, so I won't interrupt Tyler.
Okay.
But I'm just saying.
Kathy.
Here, have some
Kathy.
dogs. Who do you want? Because they're all three here.
Yes. She can't actually hear you.
The flesh hound. Yeah, it's fine.
Lyra,
It's all good.
how's that?
Yes. I thought you were coming down to say hello to the Owen Jackson in the chat.
Oh, I already said hello to the Owen Jackson.
Oh, okay. Got it. Very good.
Here's Lyra.
There you go.
I'm digging that jacket.
It's lovely.
She's in red celebrating corn since you're on the show. She knew. She knew, absolutely. All right, very good. Tyler, did you paint anything this week?
Of course not. Although,
Sorry, Tyler.
yeah.
Come on, girls.
I may have an announcement. I don't know if this is the week, but I'm running out of time. I told you that somebody had given me an idea how to actually get some leverage out of this whole painting thing that you've been bugging me about for 6 years.
Yeah, sure.
7.
All right, 7 now. Yeah,
You can sit on it longer if you want. Whatever you like.
Oh, right. So, I got distracted by War Coda. We were supposed to have been a lot further along on this community terrain project, right? osterrain.org. Nothing there's yet. It's empty right now, but so it's going to be this hopefully amazing global resource for the community on all things terrain, where you can go and see contributors who have created amazingly themed tables. With those tables profiled, you can see clubs with tables profiled. You can get all kinds of different resources, right? And then we're going to use this to build our local capacity of terrain, amazing themed, high-quality tables that we can then loan out to events in our region, Oklahoma, Texas, and so on. Like the long-term goal of this is maybe try to create these regional hubs of incredible terrain that we can all share. So I thought, if I'm asking people to contribute terrain, maybe I should have some skin in the game as well.
Okay.
Actually, I didn't think that. That was some sadist who gave me that idea.
Sure.
But, there's a lot of that going around. Yeah. So for every table that gets painted, to the quality we're looking for is basically Season of War, mini war gaming, tabletop tactics. Season of War in our local community. Check out their tables. That's the quality that we're looking at here. For every table that gets painted, I will paint a unit of miniatures for an army that I'm going to paint myself and put together.
I love this. This is great.
So we need to have...
In Sweden, I do have a table ready, actually, if you want one.
I've seen your table. It's beautiful. You are an amazing painter.
Oh, thank you.
We'll lock it in, buddy. That's one. All right,
That'll get me to put a table together. Absolutely, I'll knock that out. I got a bunch of extra terrain. If I can force you to paint a unit, yeah, sure, that's fine. I can do a table in a weekend, son. That's easy.
Yeah, this is going to be painful. This is going to be very painful over a long period of time. The problem is I'm going to have to actually get good at painting too, because I can't just paint crap. How my brain works.
Sure. Well, don't worry. There's lots of tutorials on YouTube, it turns out.
So the goal is 32 tables by May 2023. Right now, until May 14th, 15th, we need to get as many as we can. Anybody who wants to come on board, us out, build a local regional, terrain capacity, help build aosterrain.org, get my ass to actually paint some miniatures, let me know. They need to be good quality. We can do this in a few different ways. We've got a number of tables spec'd. We've already got terrain ready to go that we could ship to you. Or you could come up with your own idea for a table that you want to do. Just pitch it to me, hit me up wherever. If you want to paint it yourself or you want to print it yourself and then paint it, that's cool. Whatever you want to do. We can do it different ways. Yeah, like I said, I just want to emphasize it's got to be pretty good quality because we want to profile these things on the website and just have them help level up our collective terrain game.
I love this. I completely love this. It's great.
I'm glad you're happy. So yeah, I figured Konstantinos, that made a lot of sense. Get my ass to actually do something, have some skin in the game, rather than just asking everybody else to do it.
It has worked for you for some time now, but at some point you're no longer going to be the new hot thing. You understand? So it's time to start getting into it, man.
That's right. That's right. Well, fantastic, Tyler. I love this deal. Let's all hit Tyler up on social media, and you can figure out how to get involved. And I think it's a great resource. I love the idea of regional hubs of terrain to help facilitate people running tournaments. It's just a great thing for the community because I do think it's one of the major barriers of entry to TOs who want to run tournaments is just having the terrain. It's such a massive lift. And so having the idea that here is this, in your area, here's some terrain that can be shipped to you for use for your weekend and you're good to go. It takes such a load off of people, lets them run games, lets us expand the tournament. And frankly, I think we'll expand just the number of different types of tournaments being run too, which I'm always for.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Nicholas, yeah, well, that's TBD, but quite a bit of the Midwest, we'll say. Obviously, that's a whole topic into itself, what all is included in the Midwest. But yeah, we'll have more details on that soon. And definitely a shout out to Bryce. He is the maniac that put this idea in my head. So thanks, but no thanks, Bryce, for the upcoming pain. Yeah.
Love it. Fantastic. Well, my hobby time has been very, 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 very busy. I am working on a ridiculously large number of projects that I can't talk about, but you'll see sometime soon. But in the interim period, I had a couple hours, sort of on Saturday, and I was in between projects. So I have had this guy for a little while. This is this fun 3D print. I think it's from Archvillain Games. I think of a Lord of Change.
Oh, never mind.
And so I painted him up and used a little bit of footage for that for a video, just talking about kind of different types of colors and primers and stuff. And so this guy's fun. So I thought, hey, why not paint up a Lord of Change? The guy only took 6 or 7 hours, so he's pretty fast. And I just kind of knocked him out. And he's fun. And now I got another Lord of Change. So who doesn't like Lords of Change, right? So fun birds. Who doesn't love more chickens? So... and more stuff will be you'll see soon. The thing there is a project sitting directly off camera that everybody will see at AdeptCon that I am so beyond reason excited for, but cannot talk about yet. I just want you all to know that I am buzzing the electricity over this thing that is right here. It's like right here. You can't see it, but you will soon. 2 weeks. 2 weeks, you'll all see it. Okay. All right. So, with hobby time out of the way, gentlemen, shall we talk about some IDK?
Clarification, Miguel. So this will probably be, it's looking like Stormcast, because Stormcast are something I might actually be able to manage an entire army of. So a unit would be defined like 5 Vindictors, like minimum size unit, 3 Annihilators, 1 hero, that sort of thing. Yeah, so you can think of this, like 20, we're looking at about 20 tables is what we want to get together.
Perfectly reasonable.
We've got about 12 in place, so yeah.
Perfectly Stormcast is a great place to start, by the way, for your first army, because you can make them look good, even as a newer painter, with just putting the time in. So, fantastic. All right. With that, let's talk about some IDK. All right, let's bring up a little presentation there. Here we go. Idoneth Deepkin 2022 review. Let's get amongst it. Boom. Here's my summary. I'm going to start, and then I want to go around the horn. Okay? All right. Solid book. Continued trend of quality book with more options. This is some of the nicest internal balance. Like, we're on a good road of internal balance here that we've seen in recent books. Stormcast has some challenges with that, but that's only because a couple of units stand so far head and shoulders above. We'll rein those in eventually, and then I think we'll be actually in a decent place with them. Still got to hit them dragons harder. Still got to hit them long strikes, whatever. But that's not... But, I mean, this book answers them pretty well. Let me just say that. Like, in the meta. The gatekeeper nature of this army continues. The anti-shooting tech only improved, got stronger here. It really does. A lot of this book seems playable. Like, I was shocked looking through it. If I'm like as I was sort of, I was puttering around with lists. And I know a lot of people say they're pretty expensive and you're squeezed on points. I don't honestly think that's the case. Okay, this isn't squeezed on points. Play Slanesh and you'll feel squeezed on points. Squeezed on points means I can't build a good 2,000 point army. Everything keeps going slightly over. You're squeezed on points with IDK because you want to put everything in because it's all good and has a purpose. Right? So you're like, it's like going to the best buffet you've ever been at. You know, there's all this wonderful food. And you're like, well, my stomach only has so much room. That's not squeezed on room, right? It's just there's a lot of good stuff. Okay. The end of eels, I think, is overstated. But I do think you will see less of them on the table simply because so many other items and builds are also attractive now. Right? So it's not as though they're suddenly bad. It's just that a lot of other stuff is really good and actually competing in a very real way. And so I think you'll see lots of different lists. And you're not going to see, like, eel.spam as being the default anymore. Much wider selection of potential list types. I think there's a lot of different interesting list types here. And some items may prove very, very powerful. I don't mean like artifacts. I mean just like some items, Warscrolls, game elements may prove very, very powerful. And I think this book will be a regular top performer. You are going to look at the top 5 of tournaments once this book really hits, and you are going to very frequently see IDK in there. They are going to be a high win rate, high success army. Okay, that's my summary. Konstantinos, what's your read on the whole thing?
All right. I basically agree with everything you said, except one part. The part where you said that eels we will see less because the other items are more attractive. I would actually say that after Morathi and the change to the points of eels, we actually stopped seeing them, and now they will be coming back. So we will be seeing less than the filth that they were, definitely, 100%. But we will be seeing, like my opponents will be seeing more eels because the book changed. And is it okay if I say my thoughts? If my,
of course,
my
please.
first...
Yeah, and I just want to say, I completely agree with you. By less, I meant, you're right. I meant more than the height of eel.spam, not than the last couple months. So completely fair correction. Yeah, hit me. Give me your thoughts, man. I want them.
Okay. So, like I said, I'm going to tell you during the episode why I think this is the most anticipated and asked for battle tome. In fact, it's weird that you said that you don't care about these books because you've been asking about this specific book for a while now, Vince. And here's my thesis on it. Because for the past year and a half, and mind you, that year and a half has lasted for approximately 5 years now, this battle tome is the one we're getting this Sunday or this Saturday is the one we've been looking for. And if you're not convinced, 2 minutes. I was about to say 2 minutes class. I'm a teacher, so now I'm getting in the zone again. So there's usually discrepancy between what people ask and what GW provides. Look at your mountain cow elves with hammers, for example. Some people liked it. Some others, #disappoint the elves. But, yeah. So what's the whole shtick of IDK? They are seafaring raiders that attack coastal communities and ship routes, striking fast and disappearing back into the blue before any tactical armies can take them on. Their MO is attacking those who live on the shore to procure what they need to survive and perhaps even thrive. We have a word to describe that vocation. Even a child would recognize it. Anyone?
Pirate.
Yes. It is pirates. And so you see where I'm going with this, and you're like, oh, Dinos, you're saying vampires. But IDK are pirates, they're not vampires. But aren't they?
Well, I wasn't going to say that. They're if you can have emotional, I've watched What We Do in the Shadows. I know emotional vampires when I see them.
Yeah, well, true. They're pale-skinned, right?
Sure.
They look humanoid. They range in appearance from the preternaturally beautiful to the grotesque. Okay, and they're highly intelligent, and they are also immortal. But at the same time, view human folk as a source of sustenance. The consumption of mortal essence is imperative to their survival. I'm still talking about Idoneth here, not vampires. They have mind control powers. They can make their presence forgotten, as if they were never there. Sort of like a forgotten nightmare, one might say. And, oh, by the way, mostly 2s to hit and 2s to wound. They're supernaturally strong and fast. Everybody knows how fast this army is. And you can say that vampires are undead. Well, they were eaten by Slanesh, these guys. And they returned. That's what revenant means, to return. Another word for vampire. And so they're clinging to life now, always needing that aforementioned mortal essence, let's say. Also, a stake through the heart and decapitation and fire will kill him. All right.
Sure. That's a low bar across for most living things. Yes.
One of the biggest weaknesses of the army is mortal wounds, after all. Although their leaders can have protections against them. Now, yay, 5+ word. And people tend to love their aesthetic, which is weird, since people are their predominant feeding pool, right? That's the bizarre thing about humans and the allure that vampires have on them. It's like a mouse telling their mouse buddy, say what you want about cats. Cats are cool. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, their lowliest servants, apart from the creatures around them, are called thralls, as in vampire thralls, right? And there's also a fish that is known as a vampire fish. And you know what kind of fish it is? It's a type of eel.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, you can say, what about vampires and them not being able to get inside a place where they're not invited? I would say that this is the same thing with the Idoneth and their rituals of bringing the sea. You have to see them in. Maybe. Plus,
a little bit of a
pirates.
stretch. But they also don't go raiding houses much. They tend to raid, as you mentioned, coastal communities. I don't know that the vampire rule works on a hut or a shack on the sea, a fishing shack.
Oh, you never know. Yeah, but I have to say that I'm going to show you a picture of the most famous vampire. And if you said Dracula, no. This guy here.
Nosferatu, yeah.
Yes, this is Max Schreck, Nosferatu, archetypical vampire, no doubt. This is the leader of the Idoneth race. All right? This is the most known Deepkin in the lore. Max Schreck, Volturnus. You might say that Volturnus has an eye patch. Yes, because he's not a vampire. He's a vampirate.
I'm sold.
Wow.
Vampires, ladies and gentlemen.
Incontrovertible proof. I love it.
Thank you. So with that, let's talk about what I think about the actual army.
Sure.
I think that with this Frankensteinian, to keep in the theme, faction in 3.0 from a 1.0 battle tome with Morathi, and then in Fury of the Deep, it got nerfed. It got nerfed down to very strong. That's what my feeling is. Mm-hmm. The things I could do with this book, with this set of rules, was enough to make people say, can you please not bring Reavers in the tournament? Or when we get to play, I'm saying, just so you know, I'm not bringing Reavers today or something. Because the things that they could do was like Spike all the way. Now, if you're Johnny Spike, this is your jam. What I would say about the book is that it will take a good player to unlock and utilize everything that IDK can do, but it will take a better player to counter it and negate or avoid those tricks. So, like you said, they're gatekeepers, definitely. They're really fast. Their damage output has come down slightly because it was ridiculous. That's my feeling. And they got a little bit more resilient. with all of their non-Achillean heroes rather, and they get to do more tricks with the tides. I love it. I love it so much. Like I said, I actually don't want Khorne to be updated until next year, because this book is what I want to play right now. And if Khorne comes out, my cognitive dissonance is going to make my head spin. So I'm glad that I actually bought the collector's edition. That's all I'm going to say. This is the second collector's edition book I'm getting after Khorne 3 years ago. So
Nice.
Those are my first thoughts.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Tyler, what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet so we can keep going. I think this is the best designed book that I've seen in a long while. I'm not sure what would have been the prior one that I'm also the most concerned about in terms of a competitive juice that it's going to have. And we'll get into that. This has always been an army, as you guys have conveyed, that when it's in the hands of a skilled player who really knows what they're doing, you can get tremendous mileage out of it. And Konstantinos would know better than I would. It certainly feels like that is still going to be very true. And there's a number of worrying signs that I see with this book in terms of, what it could mean to the meta in the hands of top players on top tables. It feels a little bit like an Iron Jaws book that also just happens to be best counter in the game to shooting. As Iron Jaws have none of that in terms of counters to shooting. Well, you know what I mean. Like they've got a few tricks. They've got a few mobility tricks. Yeah. Obviously, IDK has mobility tricks as well, and just extraordinary speed. So, that's it's an amazing book. On the whole, there are some things I'm concerned about.
Okay.
Yep.
So, I think there's all good points there. I want to say this when it comes to the competitiveness of this book, and I think it'd be my sort of final summary thought. Rewinding back to the Melee summer of 2019, when Flesh Eater Quartz and Slaanesh came out, those two books ran rampant over the meta, not just because they were powerful books, which is true, okay? But if you released those books as printed today, and in fact, the FEC book is still the same book, right?
True.
So we know this is true. They would both be weak underperformers, probably barely cracking, the low 40s. All right. Because not only has the game changed, but also the meta they dropped into was not ready to handle what they were capable of, right? Which was killing you before you could ever fight. Like they began the activation wars, right? And they hit so hard and hit so fast and repeatedly into a world that had no shooting, no high armor, and was just ready to be culled, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think the Idoneth book, regardless of its actual power on scroll, or, on the scrolls in the book, as we're going to talk through, is dropping into a meta where it is primed to perform well. And what I mean by that is like, you go back to our Broken Meta show 2 weeks ago, we talked about the dominance and power of power projection shooting. And we mentioned that like spells aren't really playing a part right now. They tend to be more short range. It's a lot of like shooting and mortal wound shooting and stuff like that. And guess what? This book has nothing but answers for all of those top armies. Just answer on answer on answer. And
the basic round 1, 2, 3 pattern you can achieve, and a lot of games are over by round 3, that you can achieve with this book makes it the
every
perfect
game
counter.
against Idoneth is over by round 3.
Yeah.
Either for or against. And
Right.
I would say that what you said, Vince, is actually helpful for the game, because you said that spells are going away, but spells are their weakness. So people will start bringing those back, while shooting kind of draws back as well. So that's not bad for the game, because mortal wound projection via spells mostly is their thing. It's the thing that they were very weak against back in the day, and now they do get a little bit of a 5+ ward on their little heroes. So, and one of their best units actually has rerollable unbinds and dispels. So I think that they, just so you know, I love puns. They're here to make waves. And they're...
Oh, this is going to be a pun-horrific episode. Yeah, absolutely.
100%. All right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I say I think regardless of the power of the book, and we'll talk about that obviously as we go through it, I'm just saying it finds itself dropping into a favorable place. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it is well positioned to answer all the questions the meta is currently asking. Right?
Yeah.
Now, how much that will translate to appearing on the top tables or their win rate, that remains to be seen. But that's a strong start. Right?
Agreed.
It's going to be a very opposite discussion next week when we talk about Fire Slayers. Okay? Like, not to get too ahead of ourselves, but we'll talk Fire Slayers next week, and they do not start from the same place.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like, for what it's worth, I like that book too, man.
I'm not making a judgment on its quality. I'm saying it doesn't have the meta advantage. No part of that book reads as I'm ready to answer the current meta. That's what I'm saying.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
All right. Let's just get straight into it, shall we? I mean, like, I just want to let's just jump straight into this bad boy. Okay. So we're going to talk about allegiance abilities first here. They have enclaves. They're like all sub-factions now. They're one ability. We'll talk about those in a minute and what they do. They have Forgotten Nightmares. Basically like what you know, but Sentinels don't get through this. So friendly Idoneth Deepkin units can only be picked as the target of a shooting attack if they are the closest eligible target to the attacking model. Great stuff. So chosen, not line of sight. So even Sentinels can go take a hike. However, as we'll see, there are many other ways to stop all of that from happening. And you still have your tides. I was kind of amazed that the tides survived as strongly as they did. Basically still the same premise. You got sort of 4 tides that then repeat in Battle Round 5. So it goes low, flood, high, ebb, low, flood, high, ebb, low. There we go. Like a tide. And now there are still ways to flip the tides, although we'll talk about the value of that. There are lots of ways to, as you mentioned, Konstantinos, there are lots of ways to play around with the tides. In something we're about to discuss in like 2 seconds, and other things that are on Warscrolls. Like the tides are now an area that they're playing in that pool. Okay, they're in that tide pool hardcore. And what's funny to me about this is Nurgle had the wheel, right? Which the wheel is kind of their version of the tide, right? I mean, it's similar-ish concept. Each battle round, some different sort of thing is happening, right? But with Nurgle, when their new book came out, they were like, no. We're not going to let them play with this at all, right? It's you get one command ability you'll never take that can sort of move the thing a little, right?
And you're never going to use.
And you're never going to use, right? Exactly. You'll never see it. So it's just whatever you roll, that's what it is, and there it goes. Whereas in the Deepkin book, they were like, nah, it's time to go ham, dog. We're getting into this. Like we're going to have all sorts of ways to screw around with this.
This is order we're talking here. This is an order battle. Elves specifically.
Yeah, this is an order elf battle tome, so we're going to be prepared to get all the goodies. Okay. Basic stuff still looks very much the same as it did before. There are some slight changes to the tides, but the shape of it is still the same. The waves here still have the same shape. So battle round 1, when you're in low tide, your friendly Idoneth Deepkin units are treated as being in cover. In battle round 2, your Deepkin units can run and still shoot or charge in the same turn. Battle round 3, army-wide always strikes first. Which is ridiculously good. That's why I said all these fights are over by round 3. Because either they're all going to kill you or you killed them before that. That's it. And then ebb tide. In this battle round, friendly Idoneth Deepkin units can retreat and still shoot or charge in the same turn. And then we go back to being in cover on the last round. Okay. Basic stuff. Tyler, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, personally, I'm not saying anything I think too crazy here. I would have preferred to see them move away from this always fight first across the entire army, particularly with the way that they've done it, where now you can do it even more than you could before. I mean, that, I don't know, seems like they could have gone in a different direction in terms of the design pattern of this book. Like, all these other pieces are perfectly fine, but that one just strikes me as still a can of worms in terms of the first principles of the design of this army.
The activation wars are back. Okay, they're back. Welcome back, Activation Wars. We missed you. The Activation Wars took a break for the global pandemic, and now they're back. Because this book and its companion book releasing both play in this space. Okay,
It's true. I have to say, I'm glad that the Forgotten Nightmare stayed the same. There were some people that were asking for spells as well, which would be self-destructing because everything should have gone. Like they would have to make everything in the battle tome worse to balance it.
right.
Already overpowered to not being able to shoot something. Like so, adding spellcasting to that would be like it. I'm sure they thought of it. Then they probably shut down the idea after like 1 minute.
Sure.
And as for the Tides of Death, I'm both surprised and happy they haven't changed because I don't need to change anything about my game plans. Technically, with Foodtown doing its filthy things back in the day, like yesterday, but
Yeah, Constantinos, it's obvious, like, unless I'm wrong, I mean, it seems like this is the obvious design sort of pattern in terms of competitive play that still runs through this army, right? It's the anti-shooting Forgotten Nightmares, and then what ritual we're about to get into, and then multiple ways that you can do High Tide. Like, that's going to be the signature that defines the majority of these Idoneth games, and that to me just feels like a bad choice as a core design signature for how this army will play.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
these two.
I'm thinking that with after Fear of the Deep, it hasn't been a while. It has been too long, but Reavers like 3.0 Reavers became big. Like they became huge, and the competitive Idoneth choice was bring a lot of Reavers and put them in Futan. Turn one, everything runs and shoots or runs and charges. That's 180 shots, by the way, mind you.
Yeah.
And then round two, everything fights first. So that was how it looked. Round one, shoot everything down, shoot everything to death. Round two, if anything has survived, you get like I have played with Futan in 4 tournaments. 4 tournaments. I lost my very first match against the TO who cheated because he had Doc and Bow Snakes and Gotrek while I was just preparing my first 10 Reavers. That's it. And that was the first game I lost and the only game I lost ever since, including versus 7 Seraphon. So we don't like Seraphon. Idoneth don't like Seraphon, and they will feel it. Another great thing about the meta shattering force that this book is. And most games would end up on the top of 2 when my opponent would actually fight me because I've charged with everything while the Reavers were sitting in the back shooting, and they would lose everything because it was fight first for me. So they would actually concede top of turn 2. That has happened more than half the games I played. So that's not going to be the case anymore. Round 3 is obviously High Tide. It's great for Idoneth, but it's not as good as it was previously. That's how it feels for me that I've been playing this army competitively. So we'll see. They do have weaknesses, and some of the strong things in the meta right now, and the things that we don't really see in the meta, even though we do know they're good, they will fight them well. That's how it feels. Just bring spells. Just bring lots of spells. That's what it is. So yeah, I am happy that they haven't changed, and they have, sitting with a nautical theme, they've jettisoned the rituals, right? They're gone.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Ishran rituals.
Yep.
So the actual ritual where you roll dice and then got some weird myriad of bonuses that nobody ever remembered, gone, as we predicted, as I hoped. This is a very positive usability change Just want to say that. I love that this is just a thing now based on whether or not you have a particular type of unit in your army. Fantastic. So much easier, so much more straightforward. Great, great, great usability change. Okay? All right. So you have 4 rituals. Guess what? They match to the tide, right? So as you might expect. And if your army includes any Ishran units, you get 1 of these rituals. You don't get 1 for each Ishran unit, to be 100% clear. It's just if you cross the bar of having 1 or more, you get 1 ritual. Although we will talk, there's a way to play with that later, but we'll get there. Okay, so your Ritual of Creeping Mist. Friendly Idoneth Deepkin units that are affected by low tide, which is your turn 1 ability, cannot be picked as the target of a shooting attack unless the attacking model is within 12 inches of that unit. Woo! Hello, Cleveland. Army-wide mirror shield. I mean, that's what we're dealing with here. Slightly worse, 3 inches worse, but very strong. Very strong. That means if anybody wants to shoot you with, and keep in mind, even if they cross that threshold, remember they can still only shoot the closest unit. Right? That Forgotten Nightmares is still in play, working in tandem with this. So this is very, 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 very strong. Like, if they want to bring their long strikes to bear, I hope they're willing to set their long strikes up very close. Well, the attacking model has to be within 12 inches. So they can't, like, even set up one long strike towing in and then put the others, like, behind or something. No. Everybody who wants to shoot has to be towed into that 12-inch line, right? Which means they're dead next turn. Like, enjoy your one shot, because you're dead now. You're dead now. So, so that's very strong.
Long strikes anyway, so.
What's that?
Not too much sympathy for long strikes anyway.
Absolutely not. No.
Volunteers.
But it's a very strong rule. Ritual the Surging Stream is 1 to run and charge rules for friendly IDK that are affected by Flood Tide. So Flood Tide is the one that allows you to run and shoot or charge. So obviously then you're +1. This is, I think, the only generic source of +1 to charge not on a Warscroll in the book. So, obviously quite potent. But I can see armies that would take this, but I think it might be taken as like your second ritual. We'll talk later about how you get a second ritual, but this is like my hot pick second ritual in certain builds.
Yeah. My first one. It's actually my favorite one. But the best thing about the rituals is that you choose after the armies have taken their command points.
Thank you.
Like,
yes.
There you go. You don't even need to choose. You go, do you have shooting? Yes. What kind of shooting? Meh. All right, just shoot the closest thing and do nothing. I'm going with +1 run and charge on everything in round 2. Asterisk. Do you have good shooting? Oh yeah. Well, you're not shooting anything. Do you have 0 shooting? Yes. Never mind. So yeah.
Absolutely. That's such a good point. I was gonna mention it at the end, but you're absolutely right. I was gonna use that as like the punch surprise. And guess what? You don't have to write these things on your army list. You just get to pick whichever one is best for you in that game.
As an Idoneth player, I don't know of cutting in line, just so you know. That's
Nope, it's all good. So, Ritual the Deep Sight, friendly Namarti units, so only Namarti, that are affected by High Tide, so the round they have always strikes first. They also have a ward of 5 up. Yeah. There are other ways to make people affected by High Tide, so we'll talk about that as well. Very good ability. Not the only source of giving a unit a 5-up ward, as we'll see. But I think that's an interesting ability, certainly. And then the Ritual, the Spiteful Riptide, the one that no one will ever take. Cool. So there are 3 good ones here that you care about, and 1 that you can just more or less write the Ipsum Lorem text in your book and be fine. These are potent, right? I mean, okay, I just want to take a step back here. Let's just step outside of this book for a second. This is crazy, right?
Oh, yes.
Like, I'm not alone here. These are crazy. Like, the fact that you do not have to choose these before you play the game. the fact that they are reactive to your opponent with no randomization. You just have to have an Ishran guy, which, by the way, there are plenty of Ishran people you would be more than happy to put in your list. Yeah. It's not attacks. They're doing good things beyond this. This is wacko. Like, this is just wild that this is an ability they have. This is super powerful. Yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to...
List. See who goes first.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
get your command points. What? Like,
Yes, you know what your enemy army is, you know priority, and you know who's assigned what turns. Like, priority has been decided.
Looks, where is everything? Not you go first, right, start setting up. Nope. Everything is up. And then suddenly, whoosh, missed. Gone.
It is like the last possible moment you get to decide this before the game, quote unquote, begins. Right? Or as it's beginning.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, there are armies that would kill for any one of these abilities to be selected. The fact that you have the choice to get one of the good three, or, you know, potentially more. I don't know how often that'll happen, but it is a potential. Is pretty strong. Tyler, any thoughts on this Ishran ritual?
Yeah. So one thing to know about Ritual of the Deep Sight, the 5-up ward affecting friendly Namarti units that are affected by High Tide. Of course, you can have High Tide in multiple rounds with this army now. So just one thing to keep in mind as we go through this.
It's not the full round. It's a phase. It's not always. It's not that. No, you know what? It is horrible. It's not that horrible, but it is horrible.
Namarti units that are affected by the High Tide ability, right? I just mean that can be affected by the High Tide ability in
more than just about round 3. Yes.
More than just about round 3, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which we'll see.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Hail Hydra said, I wish I liked an elf faction so I'd always have a competitive book to play. Isn't that the truth, Hail Hydra? No, like it's absolutely true. Okay. Elves are better than you, and they know it. All right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some enhancements.
Yes.
All right. I'm just going to go through these until I'm not going to cover every one of these. All right. There are, in my mind, 2 Achillean ones worth discussing. And that would be the Lord of Storm and Sea, which is the Battleshock immunity in a 12-inch bubble. Very functional, very useful if you're running Namarti hordes. Perfectly fine. Again, in many armies, to have a 12-inch Battleshock immunity, you would be like, this is the best one. This is like the Skaven thing that always gets run. In this one, it is not. It is not the best one. Somehow that's true. Because, in fact, Unstoppable Fury is the best one. While this general is affected by High Tide, from the Tides of Death table, so in Battle Round 3, and more, because we're talking about an Achillean hero, and there's going to be one particular Achillean hero who you're going to be taking this command trait on. For each enemy unit within 3 inches of them during the combat phase, add 2 to the attack's characteristic of their melee weapons until the end of that phase. Because it's a command trait, it does not affect a mount, so it's only them. But in simplest terms, let's just imagine you get to your Achillean king within range of 2 units. That's not hard, right? That's a very doable, achievable thing. I'm not talking about the dream here where you get 4 units in range. We've all had that happen once in a while. Yeah, yes, Constantinos had 5. Exactly. So those kinds of things will happen. But I think, quite realistically, it's 2 units is very common. You can often find a conjunction point between 2 units to slide that base into. That means +4 attacks to their melee profile. So the question would rightfully become, is that melee profile worth giving 4 attacks to? Spoiler, yes. Very much so. Crazy much so. Ridiculously much so. Okay?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I like Maw Crushes and Gatebreaker Mega Gargants. Why not let your 250-point hero attack with the same profile? I see no issues. Where could this possibly go wrong?
Yep.
So yeah, I mean that's the one, right? I mean, Constantinos, you've been shaking your head the whole time. I mean, it's a crazy good ability.
Oh yeah. Like there's no like if you don't slide this thing within 2 units, what are you even doing? Even if you don't have this. Like your Killing King gives -1 to hit on units within 3. Not models, units. This guy loves company. So why wouldn't he be there? And the only thing that I can say is that you will not use it more than 1 combat round or 2. You can use it 3. There's nothing's gonna be left to use that 3 different times in 3 different turns. Like the epitome of your opponents getting, like you're the Idoneth, they'll be getting salty. Definitely. So it's the epitome of damage. And High Tide means that you fight first. Yeah. And we'll get to the Killing King later, but you will do those 2s and 2s rent 3 damage 3 attacks. Mm-hmm. That's almost a given that you will be able to do that. I don't know what you're fighting if you don't.
Right. Agreed. Yep.
Yeah. It kind of has a weird cross, impact where, like, normally, let's say you put a screen up and then you put a hitter behind, hammer behind that screen. Well, in this case, that might disincentivize you from having that hammer behind that screen because you're giving extra attacks, meaning that this could, in some matchups, incentivize you to spread out more than you would like, which Idoneth doesn't really care about that because they're pretty good about picking you apart in the first place.
There's no way to run. This thing goes for charge. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of castling in the game right now for various reasons, and that's not a great idea with something like this. Yeah, it's insanely powerful. Like,
yeah,
this is one of the
very well suited into the meta, right? There are a lot of shooting castle armies right now that want to be in kind of a tight pack, lots of units sort of touching up against each other in relatively tight bubbles. And guess what? This guy wants nothing more than that to happen because he's going to come shooting out of being easily protected, where you couldn't shoot him. Like, there was no world where he was being shot. And he's just going to shoot forward and then lay waste, as we'll see. Traits of the Ishran. So this is if you want to make an Ishran hero your general, right? So let's talk about the reversal, because this is where this is now, right? The old flip the tides that we knew from our previous incarnation.
Yeah.
Is now a command trait you can give if you've got an Ishran general. But it lost a lot of its capability because it used to be that you could flip it, but then make the first one actually to run in charge turn, and then the second one would become High Tide. You don't have that ability anymore. Now, when you flip the tides, your first turn is sort of nothing because it's retreat and shooter charge, which you're theoretically not doing in the first turn, probably. I mean, in many cases, not everyone, but many. And then second turn would become your High Tide. So I don't know how much you'd see this. I'm sure there's going to be some builds that experiment around with it. But
I've noticed, Vince, like the privilege that's an order battle tome. Because you can no longer do that. Well, you can actually under circumstances, because we always say, well, you can do anything. You can do anything. This is like playing in the game of elves. And I have to say, like, me playing Futan, where I always change the tides, always flip the tides, because round 1 was run and charge or run and shoot, and you would also reroll ones. So your 2s, rerolling 1s, 2s were a thing. I don't really see that happening anymore. So I agree. Not sure about this run, the flipping of the tides. People seem interested in it, so we'll see what they're seeing. I don't see it right now.
Yeah. I think some people are going to play with it. It is interesting to move High Tide to turn 2 because of sort of other things that could also be happening. I think there are lists that people are going to play with that will capitalize on that, plan to sort of capitalize on that. But I'm not sure I'm not sure it outweighs or is the best build. We'll see. It's very much a wait and see for me. I don't see the same clear path that I did before with the sort of the combination of abilities that were there. Okay.
Yeah.
And then finally the traits of the Eidolon. So if you want to make one of our Wave Rider boys, your general, The interesting one to me here is the one for the aspect of the sea, which is if this general successfully casts a spell that is not unbound with an unmodified casting roll of 7+, you can attempt to cast one extra spell that phase. And rinse and repeat. Like, he can just keep casting as long as he keeps getting a 7 up.
He has the Magister, right? But better.
Yeah, exactly. And the aspect of the sea, when he casts spells, also heals. So kind of interesting that he can just he can ramp himself. Yes, yeah, he can do it. He can heal himself once. Yes. So yes. It's an interesting thing that you could just go quote unquote infinite with him. You know what I mean? Obviously not, but it's suddenly ramping him up to multiple more spell casts than you were expecting is pretty potent. There's a decent amount of spells. You're going to eventually run out of stuff to cast is of course the challenge. But it's not bad. I don't really care about making a monstrous rampage with my aspect of the storm, and the whole everything that's a 1 or 2 misses doesn't really matter to me because that still rerolls still proc before unmodified triggers. So, okay.
We'll see the monstrous rampages for the next GHP because right now Storm Eidolon doesn't really matter. The better it gets, the more interesting this will be. But my clear winner is Endless Storm, 100%.
Tyler, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to run the aspect of the storm, which I think you certainly can, may not be the best option in terms of that role in your list. It's not bad. Turning off roar is the obvious piece there, as a way of just reducing the safe stacking that you're going to be facing with your aspect of the storm that's trying to kill something. Yep. So it's not bad, but there are definitely better options, I would say.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think people will occasionally take that because people do love Ocean Wave Man, Wave Cloak Rider. He's a cool dude, and if people really love the aspect of the storm, who, by the way, isn't bad. Like, let's just I'm gonna put a hard pin on that. We'll talk about it when we get there. He's perfectly good now. Not that he ever was super bad, but he's quite good now. If somebody has him and loves him and wants him to be their general, I mean, this is a perfectly good pick for the reasons you mentioned, right? It's one of those cases where it's not that this is bad, it's outshone by other really good options. So
there are no bad choices in this book. Let's make this clear. There's nothing that's bad.
Right. You're absolutely right.
Unless you're going nuts, yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Miguel Benedict who said, when you play the game of elves, you win. That's it. Full stop. Cersei Elphister. Yes, I agree. Okay. So, Achillean artifacts. All right. What's your? I'm gonna start to you here. What's your pick, Konstantinos? What do you like?
All right. Obviously, 100% the armor of the Sedai. I was so excited about this that I chose it against more tribes that they have nothing on 6s. That's how. Like this book is rife with anti-meta choices, and the best ability in the game was the Eye of Ed Sheeran on my beloved Archeon. Was the best ability in the game. Reroll 6s against him. They massacred my boy. They turned the Eye of Ed Sheeran to the lazy Eye of Ed Sheeran before eventually taking Archeon behind the shed. Rip. But because Karma is a sandy beach where the Idoneth Frolic, this beautiful artifact was drawn into the sands. And when you get 6s against your Achillean King, no specials.
Right.
Are you proccing mortal wounds on 6s? Too bad, you don't. Is your Nurgle coughing all over me? I got the anti-vax here. Like, no, not the anti-vax. Right here. Nope, never mind. Move on. Like, I have nothing to say against it. Like, this thing is amazing. You go, you put your Achillean King in front, you see the bow snakes, the 15 bow snakes, you go, come on, shoot, do it.
Yep.
2 wounds on average from 15 bow snakes. 2 wounds.
Right.
Like, it's beautiful. Like
3+ save, you're going to be at a 2+. All that defense, you're at a 1+. Like, look at the guys.
Like your guys around you going, look out, sir. And you're like, oh, I got this. It's fine, guys. I got this. Even they say, look out, sir. Now, like this is
It's
Beautiful.
crazy good. Yeah, it's just insane. Yeah.
Again,
They're
answering all the top choices, right? Because when you look at a lot of the powerhouse units and the way that they're achieving power is often through triggers, 6 to hit triggers, right?
Yep.
And this just says, nah. Like, nah. Let's not do that. At the same time, by the way, I don't hate the Potion of Hateful Frenzy. I just want to say that. Like, +1 to hit, +1 to wound, +1 attacks, +1 to run and charge. Again, it is a source of an interesting +1 to charge, only for the unit that drinks the potion or whatever. And in the end, I don't care about the D3 mortals or the camp pile in the next turn, because I've probably killed whatever I'm fighting, given who I'm giving this thing to. Although, in my money, your actual second choice artifact, if it's not the armor, is the Arcane Tome.
Yeah.
That's actually number 2.
Yeah.
Then the potion.
There was one more, the Disharmony Stones. Probably has to do something with Forgotten Nightmares, because every time I read it, my eyes glaze over and I forget what it is about. No idea, no clue.
Yes, it is a magical artifact in that I've read it 7 times and cannot remember a single word that's in it. It's some kind of silly minigame that is way too complicated, and I'm not, nope, pass. An artifact should not take up more than a quarter of a page. That's where I start. That's sort of the, if you can't, look at the beautiful simplicity of the armor of Sithai, right? Just boom. Yes, Joe McGill, the armor would stop disease points for Nurgle, because that is a trigger on the roll of a 6 to hit. So, nope. Achillean Kings have all been properly vaccinated against Nurgle. They're ready to go. Nothing.
It is good
through there. Yes.
That's...
All right. Let's talk about some other artifacts. I mean, the one that I want to talk about with Ishran, because I actually do really like one on here.
Yeah.
And that is the Rune of the Surging Gloomtide. Once per battle, at the end of your first movement phase, you can say the bearer will summon a Gloomtide shipwreck from the aethersea. If you do so, you can set up one Gloomtide shipwreck wholly within 12 inches of the bearer, more than 3 inches from all models, objectives, and other terrain features, and the spells and invocations. So basically, sort of standard rules of 3 inches away from everything. But you can just be like, plop, there's a boat. Okay? And you get a boat.
All of us Idoneth players that sold our shipwrecks after Morathi came out, like, touche, GW, or too soon, whichever you want. So that's what they did. They would be like, wouldn't it be hilarious to bring a second shipwreck back? They're like, yeah, let's do that. So yeah, I sold mine. I don't know where it is now. So
yes, everybody, all Gloomspite players got rid of their second boat or turned it into terrain or something like that, because they all used to have 2 boats. Be able to cheat with their 2 boats. And GW decided, you know what the nicest thing we could do is, now that everybody's offloaded that extra boat, bring it back. And let's make it worse than ever before, because the boat does a lot now, by the way. So we'll talk about what the boat does eventually, but dropping a second boat as an anchor point to not only stop potential movement, like it is very reasonable on a medium to high terrain board that you can more or less stop people from moving still now, especially with a defensible, garrisonable building, which is effectively what you're putting out
flash there. An impassable piece. Yeah.
Correct. With large enough base units is what I mean. Like, obviously little dudes, because it's got to be 3 inches. Little units can still filter through, of course. But with anything with any kind of sizable base, your big monsters and such, they can just be like, well, I guess I don't get to go in there anymore. So there we are.
Yeah. I have to mention that Crunch said, love the name, by the way. What about the 6s that are mortals and the sequence ends? What happens there? The sequence goes on because the special is ignored.
Yep. The sequence wouldn't trigger, so it would just be treated as a normal hit, effectively.
Like all the rest.
Yep.
Yeah.
So on this shipwreck, let's see, end of the movement phase. When does the Soul Scryer, end of movement phase, right? For the Soul Scryer's sword edge coming in, the setup? Right, so you could sequence this. You plop your ship down, and you plop your 10 Thralls or 10 Reavers into that ship. That's cool. Yeah. I think I need to reclaim this best designed book comment that I made at the beginning of this conversation. There's just way too many of these. Yeah, we got away from the whole. I'm gonna put 4 boats in front of my line. We got away from that for a reason, and now it's potentially back. That seems like a bad idea.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I
we'll
mean,
see.
look, boats are the Voldemort of the mortal realms. You think they're gone? Nope, they're always coming back. They're always coming back.
It just leads to. I mean, it's so many games. I played Idoneth so many games. It leads to absolute nonsense on the table, and just one of many reasons why. Anyway, I'll stop rambling. Honestly, I'm a huge fan, Constantinos of Idoneth. Huge fan over here, clearly.
You need some balance. Yeah.
The Eidolon artifacts, I don't like any of them.
Joke. That's a joke, right? One of them does once per battle for one combat phase what the general trait does for the whole game.
Right.
I don't know what they were thinking. What? I don't know, maybe some will take the Bioshock shell on a Storm Eidolon, but what a waste. What a waste.
Yeah, I don't like any of these. I don't think any of them really have value. I think that the Kraken Tooth is cute because all little I might accidentally slay you on the roll of a 6 things are like funny. They're all funny. I love all of them. The Nurgle's Nail or whatever it used to be called, it has a new name now. The Brass Orb. Who doesn't love a hilarious chance to kill somebody on a 6, right? It's the funniest thing.
True.
But it's not a good art. But it is not a good artifact to make. So, But for the person who takes Kraken Tooth, throws it at some 10 wound thing, and then just insta slays it, we salute you. That's right. That's right. You have had a good day in Warhammer that day.
True.
Okay. So, right on. Mount traits. Some interesting mount traits here, for sure.
2.
But, I mean, it's Void Chill Darkness. Let's just start at Void Chill Darkness, because that's whatever you're going to see on, like, a million lists. So, if I remember right...
Chill ride there is. Right?
Yes. Void Chill Darkness used to be for models within 3 inches of him. But it's not like that anymore. I don't have the old text in front of me, so I thought that's what it used to be.
Not so sure about that. I think it was as filthy as it is right now.
Okay. Either way, Void Chill Darkness, still good. -1 from hit rolls for attacks made by enemy units that are within 3 inches of this unit. So, that goes on a Deep Mare, hence your Achillean King can now broadcast this neg1 hit aura when he puts himself in the pocket, right? Because he wants to be in the pocket of multiple units with his command trait to gain a bunch of attacks. Now he also makes everybody in the pocket neg1 to hit, not just against him.
Everything.
Against everything. Just blanket that out. That is the biggest range 3-inch effect I have ever seen in my life.
Oh, yeah. We did say that this guy wants to be within company. He likes the company. He likes the praise. Everybody to look at him. Yep.
I do also think the other 2 Deep Mare ones could have a world here, depending on kind of if you're. We'll talk about the 3 kings or whatever. I don't know what we're going to call the list, but because I think you need 4 of them, but whatever. We're going to talk, maybe it's Quad King. I'm not sure, but we'll talk about it. If you went into enhancements and you had more mount traits to give out, that is to say, if you selected additional mount traits, the D6 mortal wound impact hits can be interesting, as can the +1 attacks to your Fang Talons and Lashing Tails. If you're just trying to build a damage monster guy, then, more attacks is more attacks, right? I mean, it is what it is. But, I mean, Void Chill is so head and shoulders above those. It's crazy.
Not even D6, it's on a 6. If you roll a 6, it becomes a D6 for the Deep Mare Horn.
Right.
Doesn't change the damage. So why would you... I don't know. Yeah.
Nope, it's totally fair. It's only on actually, like, you have to roll the 6 first to turn it into a D6. It's the worst one. But, I would take the Savage Frosty before I take the other one and pair it up, just if I'm trying to build, like, the ultimate Wrecking Ball Achillean King, right? Just punch so far above my weight. Like, I would give him the Fang Talons and Lashing Tails. I'd have a different king with Void Chill Darkness, obviously, who just goes along with him, right? But
The cool guy.
The cool guy. I'd give him the Battle Brew, I don't know what else to call it, so he can have more attacks on his main stuff, and then the command trait, and then we send him in, and he just like, he is juiced on all the roids and just goes in there and goes ham.
Oh man, I have to find my Hero Quest card to go Battle Brew. Whatever I use
exactly.
it.
You got to get the Battle Brew card out. Yep.
Yeah.
I just think that'd be a fun Achillean King to play. I don't think it's the most competitive choice, but man, when you rolled in with that dude and was like, okay, so I have I have 13 attacks with this neg 3 rend 3 damage weapon, and now I'm gonna roll through 3 more profiles after this. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the Leviathan can change rend neg 1 to nothing. Fine. He can subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons that target this unit that have a damage characteristic of 1.
Yeah.
Fine. And he can increase the range of his Void Drum from 12 to 15 inches, which is his...
First. That's the one you want.
Yeah. It's fun. It was nice of them to put the good ones right next to each other, so you only had to read this little area of the page.
Go to the end. Read what happens in the end. I have to say for the turtle, I would probably always take that one because I don't like the -1 to wound because it's only melee weapons and only if it's damage 1. What is that extra sauce? Excuse me, this is an Elves Battletome. This is order we're talking here. Leave that Devil's Contract small print for Khorne or destruction. Even the rend doesn't say worsen by 1. It says if it's a 1, turn it into a 0. What? Pass.
Unacceptable. Yeah.
Unacceptable. Exactly. Thank you. Do you know who I am? That's what you
Now, I will say, we're about to talk about a spell that can pair quite well with that, to be fair. Okay.
True.
So, there is play there. And we should also state, you do get 1 mount trait for both your Deep Mare and your Leviathan without expending an additional enhancement slot, because the text is you can pick 1 Deep Mare and 1 Leviathan. They both get a mount trait. So
It does go for the core rules. It probably won't work, but it doesn't say an Idoneth Deepkin hero with a Deep Mare. They changed that. I don't know why they did. Like Volturnus has a Deep Mare. It used to say an Idoneth Deepkin hero with a Deep Mare, but uniques cannot get enhancements. But now it says a Deep Mare. Does that mean that Volturnus can be chill as his non-named hero? Probably not. It's a good question for the FAQ. Just make it clear. No, you can't.
It's a keyword, so the keyword is on.
There is no keyword Deep Mare. There is no keyword.
Isn't Deep Mare just a keyword on as... Oh, there's not?
Nope.
As Warscroll? Oh.
It's the mount. It does have a name. You saw or something.
Oh, you're right. Oh, interesting.
I don't know.
Oh.
It says 1 Deep Mare.
Yeah.
Volty has 1. Not that you're taking.
I think the normal prohibition against uniques getting mount traits would still apply, but sure.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so spells. Let's talk about some spell lores. These are your Idoneth Deepkin hero wizards. A lot of bolded words there.
Beautiful.
I quite like these spells, actually. I think they've got a good spell list. We skinnied it down to 4 spells, but for the most part, we've got the goods in here. We kind of get rid of that chaff straight to the wheat. Steed of Tides. Let's just get into this one. Casting value of 5, range of 6 inches. You pick a hero that's not a monster. You teleport him anywhere. It used to be 24 inches, now it's anywhere. Has some real play. Lots of interesting capabilities for empowering your Eidolon of the Sea. Because he has some really good but really short range spells. So suddenly you can just be like, he's back. Nope. He's up in your face, and now you're eating the rest of his really good magic. Especially, by the by, if he's using the, I can now go and cast a bajillion spells. Getting him up there and then having him pop off can be a pretty potent play. So,
yeah. Who doesn't like a rerollable teleport in a 5? Right?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, seems...
It doesn't say Idoneth heroes. It says friendly heroes.
It is. That is true. Yes, it's not an Idoneth hero. This one's... thank you. It's unkeyworded. So if you have allied heroes, you can throw them around. As long as they're not a monster.
Sadly, Valinor would be seriously overjoyed to surf, but no cow surfing. So, no.
Cows don't surf.
You can have almost all.
Yes.
Yeah.
The counter current, casting value of 6, 18 inches, enemy unit in range, blah blah blah. Till your next hero phase, have run and charge rolls for that unit. Always good. Having charge, always good. Perfectly acceptable spell on a cast of 6. Nothing wrong with it.
You know what we were kind of missing? A Khorne Demon Prince in order.
Yeah.
That's what we were missing. Like range of 18, you give your Thrall Master Arcane Tome. Like, it's more beautiful than a sunset, this spell. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, have run and charge is really strong. It was funny. I played a game 2 weeks ago against a Slaves of Darkness list who had the Khorne Demon Prince, and I was forced to kind of I was playing Sons of Badmont, and I was just kind of forced to operate within the bubble of the Khorne Demon Prince the whole time. Never failed to charge. Not one. So I was like, that can happen. You know, like you can. It's not always going to pay dividends, but it's a super potent effect nonetheless.
Yeah.
True.
Yes, you cannot teleport Gotrek because he can't be set up. That's just on his scroll. All right. Pressure of the Deep. This is a cute spell, but I don't like it. It's the only one I don't like, and I'll talk about why. Casting value of 7 and a range of 12. Pick one enemy model within range that's visible to the caster and roll a die. If it's greater than that model's wound characteristic, it's slain. So, in general, I like things that can snipe out particular models. It's a cool effect, right? So your champion, your standard bearer, your whatever, your things that do something special, zip, they're dead now. That special effect you have is gone. That bonus to charge, that rally bonus, that whatever, right? Dead. My issue with it is its cast value of 7 and 12 inches. It's too high and too close. That's what sets it. That's what makes it the non-pick for me.
I mean, you teleport in with the Eidolon, you do that rerollable 7, you destroy coherency, you have a good one. But I don't even see, like, it's a good one. I don't even see you picking it up with your spellcaster. The one that matters, the one that like can be anywhere with Steed of Times. If you have 2 spells, it's not a bad idea, to tell you the truth. But yeah.
And then finally, Arcane Corrosion. Very, very powerful. Corrosion? I don't know.
Corrosion is chemicals. Corrosion is through water.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Neat. All right.
I use that in Hangman in my class. I teach English as a second language, and I was like CORR/SION, last letter, and they're like, oh, there are 2 O's already in the word. You lost. Right. And it's corrosion. It's not corrosion. Yeah.
That is very cool. All right. I did not. I just read it. My brain made it say corrosion when I read it the first several times. But yes, corrosion. Cool. So that's by water. Neat. Okay. I like when they put little stuff like that in there. I like when they think deeply about the language they use. That's fun. I like this spell a lot. Casting value of 6, range of 12. Still short, but easier casting value. The difference between 6 and 7, by the way, mathematically is actually quite large. It doesn't seem like much, but it's big. Pick one enemy unit within range, invisible to the caster. Worsen the rend characteristic of that unit's melee weapons by 1 until your next hero phase. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Who doesn't love sapping rend off of people? Great. Great stuff.
Your turn.
Ben says, can it reduce the rend characteristic beyond nothing? No. Common sense, I guess. Like, I don't know in the core rules if it references anywhere that sort of slash is actually the bottom of rend in the same way it references like saves, how they go up.
Probably
but I
says
assume the answer is no.
That's what it probably says, unless you're an elf.
Right.
I haven't checked.
So I'm just gonna since we're here in the middle, I'm gonna say everybody hit like for learning about what the word corrosion means, because I think we all just learned something today. So let's hit like and thank Konstantinos for this awesome lesson, and also for that amazing Vampirates comparison earlier. That was truly great and well prepared, buddy.
I'm glad you think so. That would be my hill.
Sure.
We got vampires. They're as beautiful and amazing as we thought.
Tyler, go ahead, buddy. What do you got?
On Seat of Tides, the Battle Mage comes to mind. I think they can ally Cities of Sigmar. So you could do Wild Form, +2 to charge, and then check your hero forward. Let's see. Yeah. So you just do Wild Form to +2 to charge, and then teleport your hero. And there you go. 7 charge with a reroll. Which Stormcast is doing. A few armies are doing it right now. But yeah, that'd be interesting. Kind of think about what kind of ally heroes or heroes, Eidolon the Storm, for example. Maybe with or Killian King. Like you could do some pretty crazy things with that.
Ben found the clause. Modifiers can never make the Ren characteristic worse than slash. There you go. 22.2.2. Shadowdon, I don't know. That's a lot of repeated consonants. Vince, please elaborate on the 6 versus 7 thing. Sure. A spell that casts on a 6 has a 14% higher chance to cast than a spell that casts on a 7. A notably different percentage. That is a significant difference in your chance of actually just rolling those 2 dice. A spell that casts on a 5 has about a 12% on top of that higher chance to cast. So when you've got a 5 versus a 7, it doesn't sound like much, but that's why +1 and +2 to cast are so massive, because together they're a 25% chance of the spell resolving. Not to mention that they push your other numbers higher and make them harder to unbind and all that kind of crap as well. But just mathematically, because of the curve of what 2d6 looks like, it's a really big deal to be at 6 instead of 7. So there you go.
Like, think how you feel when you want to charge 5 against when you want to charge 7. That feeling is very different. You definitely have had it during a game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Joel says you can do some filthy things with Lumineth allies. Well, Lumineth bring the filth always, so why not bring it in here?
Yeah.
Elf on elf filth. All right. Let's talk Enclaves. Just time stamping this. Okay. We're just gonna we're gonna breeze through these. I have little text added showing what's battle line in these things as well, because some of these are like pretty cool and will probably be the ones we see. I will say these aren't. Most of these are actually interesting in some way or another, but I think there are still some clear winners. But it's not as bad as we've seen in the past. All right, so Iron Rack. Iron Rack gets a new heroic action for Achelian heroes. If you do so, pick one friendly Iron Rack Achelian unit wholly within 12 inches of that hero, which obviously could be themselves. If they're an Achelian hero, they are an Iron Rack Achelian unit as well. Until the end of that turn, you can choose for that unit to be affected by either Flood Tide or Ebb Tide from the Tides of Death table, in addition to any other abilities from the Tides of Death table they are affected by. So, cool stuff. Giving them Flood. Let's all remember, Flood Tide is our run and shoot or charge, and Ebb Tide is our retreat and shoot or charge. So kind of an interesting heroic action to pull somebody out of combat, including themselves, if they want to. I think that would probably be the use for it. You'd most often see it if, like, oh, I got into a fight I didn't want to be in. It's not like turn 4. I'd really love to be able to retreat and charge somebody else. Bang, bang, now I can do it. Right? So that's kind of the reason.
It is my favorite, but which I'm going to come over afterwards.
This one, as you said, this one's your favorite? Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Because of the run and charge sort of on the offense, is that where you're seeing the play?
I don't know where to start. I don't even know where to start. Your Achillean turn 1 goes, you go kill that thing on the other side of the world. Because if you have, do you have a Maw Crusher you want to kill? Turn 1, go ahead. Use your eels, move like 22 inches plus 2d6 plus 1, something like that. When you go 6 to run, you no longer, it's like you run 6. There are no +1 because it's run rolls, right? I think you don't go 21. I think you go 20 when you choose the 6 instead of rolling. That's what I. But anyway, like you're gonna get your Morsar Guard, your 6 eels, and you're gonna tell them just go kill that Maw Crusher, and they will. They have 2 different ways to make that damage. Definitely certain to kill that thing. It has to be weird not to happen. We can get that if you want. but it's like 20 inches out, 2d6 plus 1, or even 2 if you have the ritual infect, the one that I like. If they kill that unit, which maybe they will, the rest of your army's there. 1,600 points of your army is already on their board if you need that. If they don't kill it, it's probably not in combat because it's killed anything around it. So you may ask it to retreat. And now it's round 2, because I'm thinking this is round 1 now, right?
Sure, yeah.
Like, Forcer went forward and basically, like I said, a good player will find things to do. Maybe you don't pilot it correctly, maybe things go bad, you don't know. But anyway, you will send them forward, they will kill something, then it's round 2, everything runs in charges. If you're a killing king who does move 14, just like the eels, is within 12, it goes, come back.
Right.
So, retreat and charge. So, he will run and charge in, he will kill whatever, then next turn, retreat, and go back in. And it's high tide, by the way. So, you don't need to do a lot of things in the game to, like, this is a scalpel in Enclave form. That's how it feels.
It's really interesting. I hadn't considered that ability to sort of play as the tides roll with that stick and move you're describing. It hadn't clicked for me, but you're absolutely right. It's really interesting because you can sort of shoot forward, hit the target, somebody comes to get you, you pull back, now everybody's running and charging, that unit's retreating and charging, you're just like crisscrossing over each other, always hitting the exact target you want.
That's why I said
it's really fascinating.
Player to be able to do that, you need a better player to avoid it.
Right.
That's how it feels.
No, that's interesting. I had underrated this one, I'll be honest. But hearing you describe that, I really like that concept. There's a clear game plan there that is also reactive, right? It's not like it's not set in stone. It gives you this ability to still be reactive. You didn't have to. Yeah, it's cool. That's really cool. All right, Nautilar, which is the battle line turtles. So if you're a turtle fan, Turtle power. That's right. You can carry out this monstrous rampage with a friendly Nautilar Leviathan instead of any other monstrous rampage. If you do so, change the rend characteristic of that Leviathan's, I'm just going to say turtle, to that turtle's massive scythed fins and crushing jaws to -3 until the end of the next combat phase. So if you like turtles and you want your turtles to kill things, well, this is a good way to make a turtle kill something, because giving those 2 attacks, rend 3, pretty good.
And they're also in hunters, by the way. So
Yes.
Their battle line.
Yeah, you put the 3 turtles in battle line. Yeah, absolutely. Or 2, or whatever you got. Yeah. Okay. That one's pretty straightforward. It does what it says on the tin. You want turtles, you like turtles, you bought turtles, you want turtles to kill things. Look no farther. Turns out getting rend 3, pretty good. Pretty good, as it turns out. The slow power creep of rend in the game continues. Here we go. All right. Keep in mind, though, of course, because it's a monstrous rampage, only 1 turtle per charge phase can do the rend 3 trick. So if you've got multiple turtles, you can't rend 3 all of them. The other turtles will have to do other monstrous rampages.
True.
Morphan. I would say this is one that you'll select if you're trying to run the hard Namarti, but I'm actually not sure that's totally true. Anyways, Morphan, whenever you use the Soul Render effect to return D3 Namarti, you get 3 more on it. So you're D3 plus 3 for your return Namarti. They're clearly trying to tell you this is the Namarti one, and Namarti have a lot of buffs in this book. Like, the all Namarti play it's for real. That will be an army. I'm honestly not sure I even like Morphan that much, though. Like, it's cool. It's a cool ability. I'm not sure it's the one I'd take. So
it is literally twice as good as it was last time, because you can now bring back stuff every battle shock phase instead of yours. It was stupid. And in a book where the foot troops are pretty baller, it's a choice.
Yeah.
Like, you bring 2 of those guys, you have like at least 8 models back per battle shock phase.
Yep. Which is horrifying with how deadly these things are.
Death, basically. Mm-hmm. Agash is going to be pretty pissed.
All right.
Yep.
Futhen. Futhen turns Alopex's battle line, the sharks. I'm just gonna call these things by their names, because whatever. So you get sharks, and then most importantly, you get the ability to take a bloodthirsty shiver, which is this thing we've seen them doing recently, where they take a unit, you put them together in threes, and then they get like some special rule. So it was the same thing with Rotbringer sorcerers in Nurgle with the one sub-faction. So here you get 3 sharks. It's a bloodthirsty shiver. It's just 3 sharks. There's no savings to it. So buying in bulk does not save you any money here. You pay for 3 sharks, but they get a special ability where you can pick 1 unit from each bloodthirsty shiver in your army. If you do so until the end of that phase, if the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with that unit's ferocious bite is 6, it's 2 hits instead of 1. So they get standard double tap on 6s. Now, I should say they also have this extra little thing, because they're just really dunking on Slaanesh. Somebody last week said Idoneth is like Slaanesh, but good. And I really do agree with that. It feels like how you would want Slaanesh to play. It's fast. It's in and out of combat. That Iron Rack example you just gave, right? Yeah. It hits hard. And here with their sharks, they can get 3 hits on each unmodified 6 if you're within 3 inches of other sharks in the same bloodthirsty shiver. So
yeah. It's hilarious thinking about the gap between those 2 forces on so many levels. I mean, Slaanesh is all else equal, I would say, less durable than Idoneth is as well. Like, they're even more vulnerable. But yeah, that's crazy.
One bloodthirsty shiver. I want to answer a question here. 1 bloodthirsty shiver counts as all your battle line, because it's still 3 individual sharks you take. It's not a unit of 3. If you look at them, it's 3 individual sharks. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was thinking, I don't know why people say that Idoneth are not resilient. Most of the armies are like 4-ups, and there's plenty of ways to get saves in.
Plenty of save stacking. Yeah.
I don't know what that is. Anyway, just saying.
Yeah. All the little heroes 5-up ward, multiple ways to get 5-up ward for your Namarti.
Like you say, Slaanesh but better. For me, it feels like Khorne but better. Why do we fight, Vince? Like, it's basically the same god at some upper echelons. That's how it feels like. Do you want to kill things? Do you want to do it really good? Well, bring Deepkin. It's better than Khorne. It is. Turns out, who knew? Elves know how to.
Khorne should just walk into the sea. He'll get way better. Just walk into the sea and until you adapt.
Whatever happens, everything
get so angry you adapt.
Yeah.
All right, now let's talk about the one you're actually going to take if you're going to Marty Heavy, which is Domhain. This lunacy. Okay. This ability. I don't even know where to go with this. All right, let's tuck in, everybody. Does everybody have a Snickers? Here we go. If you take the first turn in the current battle round in your combat phase after a friendly Domhain Namarti unit has fought for the first time, Thralls. If there are no enemy units within 3 inches of those Thralls, you can attempt to charge if that unit is within 12 inches of any other enemy units. If those Thralls finishes that charge move within half an inch of an enemy, which they will if they successfully charged, they have to legally, you can pick that unit to fight for a second time in that phase when it's your turn to do so. So they don't get to fight again immediately. They still have to wait their turn. Unless
it's high tide.
It's high tide. In which case, just keep this train rolling, baby. Okay. So you can send in your 10, 20, or 30 Thralls. I like 20, personally. Or maybe a 30 and a bunch of 10s. A couple different builds I've seen around that I like. I think all of them have some potential play. You get those guys in. They're going to chop anything to death now. They're very, very, very damaging. And then they're going to charge and do it again. That's basically what happens. And this isn't keyed to one Thrall unit. So, like, all your Thralls get to do this. So, if you're on high tide, let's say you got a 30, a 10, and a 10. I think that's a pretty reasonable build we'll see some people experiment with. I don't know if it'll be the one that rises to the top, but I know some people will try 30, 10, 10. You get the 30 and the 10s Let's just say they all hit chaff. Let's just pretend. All right. And we've triggered a high tide turn. It's either turn 3 or we've got a king around somewhere, as we'll discuss in a moment. Okay, obviously they chop through all that chaff like nothing. Zip zap, that's gone. Now they're all going to charge again and get into your good stuff. Okay? And now they're all going to fight again. And a lot of that stuff is going to die. And they've done this all. They've activated 6 times before you've activated once. This is why I say the activation wars have returned. You thought it was gone. No. It's back, baby. It's back. Because here we have the worst incarnation of it. Fighting first and fighting twice. On a unit, by the by, that could also be sneakily at the same time run and charge. Somehow that's all true.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The charge as well from the ritual. Because
now, I haven't finished reading this rule yet. That's what's insane. Okay, let's keep going. Because apparently that wasn't enough. If you take the second turn in the current battle round, whenever a friendly hero issues the redeploy command to Namarti, you can pick 3 friendly Namarti units to receive the command instead of only 1. So you can redeploy 3 units at a time if you're going second in the round. Fantastic. Just fantastic. Like, the backside of that ability is also super strong.
Yep.
So, yep.
You know why I played Khorne? Because moving out of sequence wins games.
Right.
That's why I love Khorne. Moving out of sequence. That's it. Not the abs. Those are airbrushed anyway. So that's how you win in Warhammer, by moving and then moving out of sequence.
Yep. Yeah.
That's what
the fact that you could charge the unit outside of Unleash Hell range, chop it to bits, and then charge the shooting unit, and now they can't unleash on you because it's the combat phase. Like, there's just a million plays that spin out of this, right?
Yeah.
You don't even need the high tide trick for that because you've charged into a shooting unit, which often you're like, whatever, who cares? Like, go ahead, Sentinels, attack me in melee. Like, whatever. All right. So
it feels like 30 Sentinels is a good comp for what I would expect to see with quite a few lists out of the gate, where obviously 30 Sentinels.
You mean 30 thralls? Oh, okay. You're saying
that's what I'm saying. Yeah. That you could kind of think of. We had a template, right, with Lumineth,
sure,
techless plus your hero piece, 30 Sentinels, 3x10 wardens, maybe 2x10, and maybe some ponies. He had a template, that I would expect 30 thralls to become that template out of the gate. And then, like you said, Bench, you have 2x10. Maybe you have some of the defensive eels as a screen. They're still not bad. You gotta have ways to soak up some damage. You got the Achillean King with the tricks that he can do to soak up damage. It seems like that's gonna be a pretty strong go-to. This rule is ridiculous. This is the kind of crap that should not exist in the game. Like, this is, I don't know. This, we'll see, but like on paper, this just feels horrific.
Does it say in the combat phase?
What's that?
Does it say in the combat phase? Does that mean that the start of the combat phase does not work? Maybe. I'm just looking for a way out.
Well, you're saying like because it says in your combat phase after you fought? That they've clarified that all of that's in your combat phase, because you don't the nature of how the start of the combat phase is a point for resolving effects. Always strikes first doesn't fight in the start of the phase. It fights in the ASF order that's in like 20 whatever that section is. So
I have to say, Tyler, you said put some eels, like defensive eels, as screens. No, take more thralls. They're cheaper. And if they don't kill them, they're going to do that. So your thralls could be screened by thralls. Because why not? They're 130 points for now.
Rewards. Yeah. I mean, we had this with pigs. We have this with pigs. Pigs became
they only get to charge. They don't get to fight again.
They only get to charge. They don't get to fight. Like, what are we doing?
Does it say order on the...
Right, yeah, exactly. It does say order on the spine, so yeah, exactly.
Warriors need to be this tall. do that.
Yeah. Pigs without a 5-up ward instantly, and without. I mean, yeah, it's just. All right, I'm gonna shut up.
It's wackadoo strong is the answer.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I don't think Namarti lists are the only list in here. That's what's really funny. Like there are going, as we mentioned, you mentioned the Iron Rack one and your play there with the eels. To me, yes, strong, valid list. Okay. I think that there are multiple. I think there's an all shark list, or all shark is whatever. That's a wrong way to say it. I think there's a heavy shark Futhen list that's quite strong because their shooting attack is really good now as well. So like I think there's a shark heavy, that's the right way to say it, list that's great. I think there's a Namarti list that's great. Like there are a lot of lists that I was playing around building with and I was like, man, that seems good, and then I completely switch the units around, like very different units, and be like, nope, that seems good too. And then again, right? So yeah. Okay. And then Briamdar. Yeah, okay.
This is for the future. The Briamdar one is your null deploy build. I don't know what you're fighting, so that your Idoneth need null deploy, but whatever it is, it has killed everything else in the game. There are no other armies left.
Right.
But they still have something for the future. You see, Idoneth, they're elves, they can see the matrix. They can say that in the future, when Skaven have eaten everything, you need to start off the table. You can do that now. Well, you can already do that without even taking the Enclave. So if you want to read it, there's a little change there. It's interesting.
Yeah, so if you set up a friendly Briamdar Soul Scryer using the Find or the Ways ability, so that's our pointy man friend. You can up to 3 friendly Briamdar Idoneth Deepkin units can join that Soul Scryer instead of 2, effectively going into reserve. So him and 3 units going into reserve. And then in addition, when you set up any units that join the Soul Scryer, his bubble extends to wholly within 12 of the Soul Scryer and more than 9 for enemy units. Yes.
Yeah. So the difference with the Soul Scryer now is that only he needs to be within 6 of the board. Everything else needs to be within 9 or 12 in this case of him.
Right.
So you don't need to stay on the next to the board side. You can start like more deeper. So
yeah, you can start. I mean, let's just say what we're saying. You can start within. You can, as long as there's not an enemy that's hedging you out with 9 inches, you can be on the objectives, because that's often how the objectives work out, is that you can't really get the bodies you need onto them to basically because of the placement of a lot of objectives. But now he comes in, and then the people go in front of him, and they're directly on the objective already.
Yeah, but if we could look in like a year later, and you see someone saying, "Yeah, I had 8 Deepkin units within Deep Strike." What's happening?
Right.
What
did you need? Yeah, the null deploy option existing in the I'm immune to shooting army is funny. Yes.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Whatever. Grand strats and battle tactics. Okay, Konstantinos, anything you want to talk about here? Most of these are just an existing battle tactic, but more specific. I'm just going to summarize them like that. Everybody knows at this point that I hate these things and wish they would go away.
Yeah. I have to say that the GHB grand strategies are better. There's always one better in the GHB ones. I'm sensing a pattern. Are they trying to make the game more difficult to do later when everything has had their own grand strategies? So maybe, I don't know. As for battle tactics, they're probably maybe too good. Like, that's where we are. That's the battle where, like, the retreat one can be pretty much an auto one. The Namarti one as well. If you go heavy reavers, the high tide one that can be done in 2 different rounds with the Healing King, it's all a bit too good. No randoms here. There is no like random like the Sons of Behemoth ones.
Right.
That,
just like, well, you get your battle tactic on a 4-up. It's like, oh, great, okay, exciting.
Yeah. So yeah, skip for next year. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, to be absolutely clear, there are autocomplete battle tactics in here that are just straight better. Okay? Not all of them, because there are 6 of them here, and some of them are just like, whatever. I agree with you completely. The battle tactics, you just should keep them in your pocket, because there are going to be turns where you go, oh yeah, I can just do that one automatically this turn. Done. Right? It's not like you lost anything.
Sorry. There is a comment that says a lot of builds, everyone's going to play the Domhain nonsense. I don't think so. I don't think that everybody's going to play the Domhain one.
I don't either. I don't either. I think we'll see a lot of it, but I do not think it'll be the only build. I think you're going to see the Shark build a lot as well. I think, like, I really think there's going to be a lot of different builds out there.
Yeah. So there are a lot of options in the book, for sure.
Yes. Noops, I disagree. More options are not always good. There's a whole field of psychology on that that says that is not true. But anyways. Okay. Let's keep moving because they're terrible. All right, let's get into the Warscrolls. That was a quick section. That's what I like. I like quick sections. All right. Warscrolls. I did put the points on all these guys so that we just have them here. I watched a bit of Haywo's Fireslayer thing. He had a fun game where he had covered all of the points with a little box that said move here for points. So you had to read the whole scroll and then guess what the points were. That was a fun game, but I didn't have that kind of time. I think SJ Arcade might have made his presentation, so shout out to him. All right. Eidolon of Mathland, the aspect of the storm. This is our melee dude. Still a lot of, basic abilities you would expect. 12-inch move, 12 wounds. Not a monster, no chart. He has a totem now, so that's cool. He automatically has an 18-inch range for his command abilities. 3-up base save, 5-up ward. He heals D3 when he charges, just like he always did. He gets +1 to attack and damage of his spear, repressed fury if he charged. He wants to be charging, and he can retreat and still charge all the time. So it's his thing. He is a wave crashing upon you. Got it? Good synergy of concept and design and rules. So no issue with that.
He's nerfed, by the way. He's the one that got nerfed.
Yes, absolutely. Which is where we're going to get to now. Drench with Hate. So add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by friendly Idoneth Deepkin units, excluding mounts, wholly within 12 of any units with this ability. So +1 to wound for your Idoneth units, but only in melee and not any mounts.
And 12, not 18, as it used to be ridiculously.
Both of those excellent changes.
Yes, it was too good. It was too good.
Wait, It's not what this guy should be doing.
Also, one thing. This thing already wounds on 2s. It buffs with +1 wound. So its 2s ignore -1 to wound. And then he has another ability that you haven't read yet that says choose a hero, ignore it, like give him -1 to wound or something, or get +1 to wound against it. So is there something that gives -2 to wounds? Why this? Like 2+, ignore -2 to wounds. I don't know why they did that. No idea.
I don't know either. It's crazy, yes, because pulled into the depths, at the start of the combat phase, you can pick one enemy hero with a wounds characteristic of 8 or less, is within 3 inches of this unit. Add 1 to hit and wound rolls for attacks made by this unit that target that hero. If I had been the developer on this book, I would have said, cut that ability, he doesn't need it. Just cut it out. It's doing nothing on the wound, because he's already, as you said, effectively on 2s ignoring -1 to wound. And it's almost impossible to get -2 to wound. There are a couple armies that can do it through like stacked spells and things, but it is pretty rare.
Yeah.
And I just would have gotten rid of that because we didn't need an extra weird caveated ability that's only on heroes, only with less than 8 wounds, only within 3 inches, for then a bonus that only on him, for a bonus that only half applies.
Yep. I forgot the specific ability every single time I used my Storm Eidolon. Every single time for the last 30 games. I never use it. He's always been my frontman, my general. Not general, but the guy with the artifact. Never used it, never going to use it anyway. Because he's not the one that we're going to talk about. Mm-hmm. The storm withdraws, the sea is still there.
That's fair. Joel said the little fishies get the +1 to hit and wound off of the pulled into the depths. That is true. Your little fishies go to 3s and 3s. Yeah, so, well, they're not. They're a companion, so they're treated like a mount. So,
true.
Okay, but yes, let's talk about the aspect of the sea because this guy's hot like fire. He's hot. 12-inch move, 12 wounds, 3-up, still not a monster. Yada yada. He's 325 points, 30 points cheaper. for the spellcaster guy. Obviously, he's not as good in melee, but he's still fine enough. Like, he's okay-ish. Is what I'll give him the official rating in melee of okay-ish.
Nobody cares. He's a lover.
It's
not
right.
a fighter.
That's right.
Because he's
a double cast wizard. You like to see that. He has a ward of 5 up. You like to see that. You can reroll casting, dispelling, and unbinding rolls for this unit. Heyo.
For this absolute unit.
Yes. That's amazing. And yes, if he successfully casts any spells, as I mentioned, he heals D3. And then friendly Idoneth Deepkin units wholly within 18 of him, so he still has a bigger aura, but now it's changed. Instead of what it used to be, now it's just Bravery 10.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so he makes all your Namarti Bravery 10.
So good.
Sharks.
Yeah, sure. Your sharks, yeah.
Bravery 6 sharks.
Eels,
Yep.
all of it. Bravery 10. Good stuff. Mm-hmm. His 2 spells, which, by the way, are not bad. That's also a thing. He has 2 spells on his scroll, and obviously he can take other spells from the previously mentioned spell lore we talked about. But his 2 are Cloying Sea Mists, casting value of 6 and a range of 12. Pick 1 friendly Idoneth Deepkin unit or 1 enemy unit within range, invisible to caster. If you picked a friendly unit, heal D3 wounds. If you picked an enemy unit, D3 mortals. Okay, fine, neat. I like a dual-purpose spell like that. It's fun. It's always nice to have a little bit of a heal somewhere as an option. It's never a bad thing. And it's
like,
quick just to heal.
Lightning bolt / healing salve.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Magic the Gathering. We haven't really made you feel the hurt yet, Tyler. So a little Magic the Gathering.
I had to get the Magic the Gathering reference in. There you go. And then Tsunami of Terror. Casting value of 7 and a range of 12. So it has that bad combo I don't like. But again, it's on this dude who's re-rolling everything, which is worth a lot on your average cast, by the by. If you cast, pick up to D3 enemy units within range and visible to the caster. Subtract 1 from save rolls for attacks made with melee weapons that target that unit until your next hero phase. And now is when we need to talk about stacking effects. Okay? Because
can you hear the roar meta? That's the Sea Island coming in.
Yes. Well, because they didn't put D3 different units on this. And the core rules speak to this, but they don't answer the question. The core rules say when you select multiple units with an effect, like if this thing instructs you to select different, you kind of have to, but it doesn't really answer whether or not you're forced to if it doesn't force you to. So can you just go 1 unit, bang, 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 neg 3 to their save?
Yes. Was that a question, Ben? Because they did answer. Right.
The core rules at the moment do not seem to prohibit this behavior, is what I am saying.
In the FAQ, they literally answered it. Can I choose the save unit? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. There's an errata, or whatever you call it. So
because they didn't write the word different here, which I hope this gets FAQ'd and they just add the word different.
Nope.
Because
I don't.
Because if not, you take this guy, you Steed of whatever it's called, Steed of Tides, magic water seahorse him forward. That's what I'm going to call the spell from now on. So you magic water seahorse him up to in range, and he goes wham, bam, bam, neg 3 rend, eat it, or neg 3 rend, sorry, neg 3 to your saves. Effectively increasing anybody's rend who attacks that unit in melee by 3.
Yeah.
Meaning that when anything comes in and now attacks that guy, they're dead. Like, if you thought the Domhain Namarti were scary before, wait until you turn them loose on a unit that's -3 to save, and they're effectively a rend 4 unit. Or whatever.
Yeah.
Pick your thing, right? Like, again, when you turn loose your Achillean King, who is rend 1,000,000 now, and just there would just be red mist floating in the aethersea at that point. Because he'll go to, like, rend 6.
Yeah. Technically, because it doesn't actually lower save characteristic. I saw that in an earlier review. It says
Save
you.
Roll.
It's basically the answer to the save stacking meta, because it ignores basically all out defense, cover, and Mystic Shield, and what's the other one? Best day ever. It doesn't. You cannot lower it more than one. It's not rend. You cannot lower it more than one. You just basically destack.
Yeah.
That's the answer. It's not that it gives you rend. It says, did you go best day ever / Mystic Shield / cover? I rolled a 5 up. Those are now gone. Like, if you do it against an opponent, they just won't. They will not give themselves like all out defense or something. There's a difference there.
Sure.
Small miracles, Constantino. Small miracles. Yeah, it would be so
it's-
much. I mean, vastly worse if it were save characteristic. Sure.
I mean,
it's
we
not,
do
it's
have
not
a
the
save
save
stacking
characteristic,
issue,
yes.
right? We do have a save stacking issue in this meta. Like, do you have Vanguard that are 2s rerolling ones with ignore rend 2? No, you don't. And that aforementioned Achilles King comes in. Did you get plus 30 save? Well, you're 6+ right now. Eat it.
Right.
The Idol
It's
can
a
do that.
terrifying spell. That's the point.
Yes.
With its ability to stack, it is an utterly terrifying spell that will mean, I mean, in the shortest and simplest terms possible, your unit is often not going to be very good at all at saving against whatever attacks it in melee. I mean, that's what it is. In a big way. It hugely answers this. Again, going back to my earliest point, this book drops so hard into the meta with answers for everything that's good.
Oh boy.
And this is another example of that, right? Like save stacking, we don't do that here.
Yeah,
Right.
That's it. How do you solve save stacking? Well, this guy can do it, who can be allied in other armies.
He can.
By the way,
Sure.
This is on his.
Yeah.
This is on his
He's
scroll.
all the-
Yeah, he brings his reroll to casting and this tsunami of terror with him into the other armies with him when he goes.
Yep.
He packs that sack up and just walks on over. Hey guys, what's up? Heard you had a save stacking problem. Nope, it's
Yep.
gone. So
Interesting to do an analysis sometime, running down the 25 some factions and looking at the landscape in terms of responses. So, spell doms can just say, nope, sorry, you're not getting that off. And yet a number of spell doms do not have great saves. I'm thinking of like Zinch.
That's the balance.
And yeah, but then, I mean, Stormcast, maybe that means they got to take an Encancer. Maybe Encancer becomes more of an allied choice just for this one spell because they're going to be potentially all over the place in the meta since they are such a good. Anyway, I think that'd be an interesting analysis to go through in terms of the potential impact of this guy because he does seem like the #1 draft pick out of this book, like in the
My number one choice.
standout.
Number one on the roster. That's how it feels. Yep.
yeah, he's potent, to say the least. So we'll see if they FAQ it to be different units. I kind of hope they do. I don't want to mess with this. I don't like the ability to just like pile on like that. It's just a feel bad moment. So I would hope that they FAQ it, but here we are. For now, you can.
I'm thinking that, yeah, you can. Like I'm that's what I'm thinking. I'm not thinking something that I have 5 up and win all out defense and then you took it away. I'm thinking of things like 2s, ignore rend 2 or something. I played with so many Seraphon in this place, in Sweden. Seraphon are everywhere. So the ones that go really heavily armored maybe don't have the unbinds, but Seraphon have everything. But anyway, that's a thing for another day. They made a couple of mistakes. There was one mistake in the box. It said -3 rend to its attack.
Yeah.
It's actually 2. And there was an early review where the Storm Island had D6 attacks on the sharp fangs from the fish, while the C1 had 2d6. It's actually both. The Storm Island also has 2d6, which I'm quite sad about. I would gladly sacrifice that d6 worth of useless attacks on the Storm Island to be able to say to my pals, there's plenty more fish in the sea. But that chance, it's gone. I was so happy when I saw that. Nope. Sorry. Never mind.
All right, let's keep moving. So here we have Volturnus and the Achillean King. Okay, so these are very similar units, obviously, because one guy is just the named version of the other thing. Both 14-inch move, both a 3-up save, both 10 bravery. It's a very brave elf. 8 wounds for 8 wounds for Volturnus, 7 wounds for the normal king. I mean, Volturnus is still fine. He's 290 points. he can fly. He's a war master, so he's always treated as a general, which is cool.
Eels are always battle line if you have him. You don't need to have the general.
Yes, thank you. Absolutely. Yep. I should have put that battle line note in too as well, but you're right. He makes the eels battle line. And the he has a 3-up spell ignore, but still has that, I should say. Very potent spell ignore. He has the first amongst the Achilleans, so add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by friendly Achillean units, again excluding mounts, wholly within 12 of this unit. So that's your Achillean stuff, not your Namarti or Ishran stuff, but your Achillean stuff.
Yep.
He has a mortal wound impact hits 2 up D3 like standard, and he has the Supreme Lord of the Tides. Once per battle, at the start of the combat phase, you can pick up to 3 different friendly Idoneth Deepkin units that are affected by the High Tide ability from the Tides of Death table and are wholly within 12 of him. Add 1 to the attacks characteristic of melee weapons used by the units you picked until the end of that phase. So he lost his I go to like Rend 5 thing on his sword, which is funny.
Yep.
His sword got dull. He was killing too many people. It just got all dull.
See, they did remember to put different here. It's not that they forgot on the Eidolon. It's the next page, right? It does say 3 different.
It does, yes, it does.
Okay.
But let's talk about the one we actually want to talk about. The Achillean King. If this wouldn't automatically get copyright struck, I would absolutely just play like 6 Def's I'm the King around here, because it's such a good song and it's so appropriate to this. But anyways, the Achillean King is 250 points, and we really have to unpack why this guy is an absolute unbridled monster. Okay? So, he can either be armed with his polearm and the falchion, or the greatsword and the falchion. Spoilers, it's the polearm and the falchion every time.
Every time.
Achillean Paragon. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by friendly Achillean units, excluding mounts, wholly within 9 of this unit. Applies to him. To his polearm and his falchion. He's wholly within 9 of himself. He is Achillean. He's the Achillean King, even, you might say. Okay? So, his bladed polearm and his falchion are on 2s. Base. Start there. Okay.
Sure.
Good stuff. Deep Mare Horn. Again, mortal wound, impact hits, fun stuff. Wave Rider. This unit's bladed polearm has a rend characteristic of -3 and a damage characteristic of 3 if this unit made a charge move in the same turn, which he will often, because he's very fast and can often run and charge, and so on and so forth. Okay, so at base you would think, all right, that puts him to 3 attacks on 2s and 2s at -3 damage. That's not too bad. But remember, earlier we talked about the command trait that gives him +2 attacks to both the bladed polearm and the falchion, though, because those are his weapons, not the mount's weapons, for every unit within 3 inches of him. So, in the event he gets near 2 units, baseline easy thing to achieve, he goes to 7 attacks at 2s, -3, 3 damage. He has a Mega Gargant profile.
Yep.
Okay?
And
then, by the way, also 7 attacks on 2s, 3s, no rend, 1 damage. And then a bunch of other... Like, there's still more. There's still more stuff happening. Right? Okay. But we're not done yet. We're not done yet. Oh, God forbid, by the way, that guy get into, like, more than 2 units.
Yeah.
You might say, but Vince, that bonus is only during high tide. Well, imaginary person, I'm very glad you made that point. Let's talk about Lord of the Tides. Once per battle, at the end of your charge phase, you can pick up to D3 different friendly Idoneth Deepkin units, wholly within 12 inches, of any friendly units with this ability. If you do so, until the end of that turn, the units you picked are affected by the High Tide ability from the Tides of Death table, in addition to any other abilities they're gaining from Tides of Death. And this happens at the end of charge. So, now there's a question of if I take multiple kings, can I activate this multiple times and just high tide out? I argue, yes.
Yep.
Like, I see nothing in the text that prevents that.
100%.
Like, I understand some people have pointed to within 12 inches of any friendly units with this ability as an exception clause. That in no way would restrict it. It only makes it worse. Because if you had multiple kings and one of them pops the ability, it technically means all your units spread around the board, suddenly within 12 inches of each king, all suddenly shoot into high tide, right? Like you can pick your D3 from amongst any of them is what I mean.
Yeah.
Nothing is preventing this from being activated by multiple kings in the same phase, as near as I can read in the text. Like, that might have been their intention. Okay? But the text that's here on offer is just like any other once per battle ability. And a million units have once per battle abilities, right?
Yeah.
Once per battle, this unit can do a thing, and on a 2-up, they do D3 mortal wounds. Once per battle, this unit can do a thing, and they get +1 to hit and +1 to charge. Like, there's a million units that have once per battle, this unit does a thing. None of them are mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
Now, there's like the Tree Lord Ancient that says you can't activate more than one of his I Make a Forest per turn, right? If you've got multiple TLAs. But that specifically has language that says you can't pick more than one TLA to do this per turn.
Yeah.
Right?
They'll fix it. Let's just say that they will fix it. There is no way this thing survives an FAQ.
I agree. Rules as offered here are so clear, and I can't find any text to argue intentionality. Like, this thing just means if you, like, the 4 kings, that's what I was talking about, right? So let's just call it 3 kings, because that's a fun list. I think you might actually use more. But let's call it 3 kings, because that's a fun name. You got your 3 kings list. You're fighting first every round with everything you want to fight first with. You're in constant high tide.
Yep.
So your entire army is ASF all the time for everything you need to have fighting.
You know what it looks like? You remember when you read the Nurgle Demon Prince?
Yeah. And you read it, and it was quite clear. Like, that's what it did. That was what the text did.
I'm not gonna bother with it, tell you the truth. Like, nobody's gonna want to play this. And the next turn I'm going in, the FAQ will have come out. So I'm not gonna spend too much brain energy on it because it's bonkers. It's bonkers. The only positive thing I can say is that there's no way all of them will be able to use the high tide because the game will have ended by then. There's 0 reasons, that's why I think this is an amazing ability. You only need 2, and you will get 2. One of his and the real one, the actual high tide. It's already amazing. I'm not gonna mind it being said, by the way, you can only do it once with the Achilling King. Sure. I love him. Bring it.
Yeah, that's the point. Even if thank you. That's such a good point. Like, let's assume, like, all the people who are arguing that no matter how many kings you have, you can only do this once. Cool. Let's just assume that's the case. I see no evidence of that in the text on offer, but let's assume it's the case. Who cares? It's still incredibly good. It's still ridiculously strong, because that means for 2 combat rounds, everything you want is always ASF.
Yep. 1, 2, 3 combat phases, actually, because high tide is 2, like a turn has 2 combat phases plus 1. That's 3. And we're talking about the guy that can have ignore 6 specials on 6s and -1 to hit from the Void Shield Darkness, and he has a base 3+, and cannot be shot if it's not the closest one. Like, this, the Achilling King is an amazing sculpt, and now it's a ruthless Warscroll. And what do you have in the middle of Achillian? You have Eel. There's the back.
I'm not sure that's true, but I like where your head's at.
Achillian King, you know?
Sure,
that's what
pronunciation. Phonetically, it's in the middle there, yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, the average damage on this guy, like, I want to make this real for everybody. Okay? Like, I charted out the average damage on this guy, and with almost no buffs. Like, there's other buffs he can get.
Yep.
Right? I'm just giving him more or less what's on profile with taking his stock standard stuff, like his command trait, his magic item, something like that. You can easily build this guy to against a 3 or 4 up save doing more than 20 damage on his attack. 20 to 30 damage, depending on the save. Depending on whether somebody got sprayed by the Eidolon of the Sea first. Right?
No, that was my game. Like, I pointed at the Stonehorn, like Babe Ruth style. That one, as my battle tactic. And my opponent went, okay, best day ever. And all out defense. I'm like, say hello to my little friend, the Eidolon. So, and there were those 5 units close by. There were 13 Rend 3 damage 3 attacks on 2s and 2s. In my enthusiasm, I even forgot to say where the rest of the attacks are going. Because we never went over the polearm.
Yeah, sure.
The rest of the attacks were like, because everything was covered in cow. So, yeah.
I mean, to be 100% clear, the Gatebreaker Mega Gargant, the thing that everybody's afraid of is like the damaging Mega Gargant who costs 525 points. More than double this dude. Right? Makes 10 attacks on 3s and 3s. Neg 3 damage. This guy can very easily get to the same number on 2s and 2s with just his lead attack.
Yep.
And then he's got more. He's still going.
And the eel bites. The seahorse, the deep mare, it's actually quite damaging.
Absolutely.
Not ridiculous one, but not absurd amounts like the one that he can get. Again, in 3 different rounds, that's a general trait. If it's high tide, in 3 different combat phases, I should say. I don't know if there's going to be anything there. That's why I do like the retreat and charge, by the way. That's the Iron Rack thing.
Yeah, sure.
That's why I do want it. You will not use it more than a handful of times, but those will turn the tide.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. So yeah, this dude's straight up bonkers. There you go. Like, he just hits like a truck. Like an absolute unit. His damage is off the charts crazy for what he's capable of.
What's his weakness?
With the right suite of stuff.
His biggest weakness is mortals via spells and stomps. That's it. That's why it's nice to have the Eidolon of the Sea again, because rerollable unbinds are great. 2 rerollable unbinds. Because people will start bringing mortal wounds via spells. And stomp, like a Mokrasha will deal 5 damage to him with the stomp. I'm going to kill him, but yeah. That's something. That's he's only. I see 0 other weaknesses on this guy.
Yeah, I think Electman. I think he's quite reliant on to really juice him to this level. You need like the command trait, or stuff like that to really make him realize his full potential. You got to get his numbers up. You got to pump those rookie numbers that are on the War Scroll up. I do think you can actually build 2 frightening Achillean Kings. Even assuming the thing doesn't stack. Like, you can build, again, depends on how you're doing your mount traits, your artifacts, and so on and so forth. So it's going to be drop impactful. But you can, like, give one the tome versus one, yada, yada. And, so you move his damage up to, like, damage 4 on the main attack. Like, so there's stuff you can play with there to just have, like, damage bros. Like the Bro Kings.
And they will always fight first. Like we said, like D3 units will fight first. Even if you roll a 1 or a 2, one of them fights first, and then it's your turn, and you pick again.
Yeah.
So,
other really good point to make is, remember, ASF people all take themselves out of the normal choosing rotation. So hence, all your ASF units fight, and then you pick your normal unit to fight. So, like, even in the worst case scenario, if you're in Bro Kings or something, both fight first.
Yep.
So, yep. Tyler, any thoughts before we leave the ridiculousness that is the Achillean King behind?
Yeah, I think we're good. Props to Troll Slayer Adam for his troll game. He was the first one I heard point this out in Rob's show. King of Spam, his cockatrice nonsense that he was doing. He had already bought 4 of these idiots, and props to him. When you're good, you're good. So.
All right. The Tidecaster and Brotan. Bro of the Seas. Yeah, like he is. Oh boy. Okay. Warden of the Bro Ledgers. Yeah, there we go. That's what it is. All right, cool. All right, the Ishran Tidecaster. Whatever. So perfectly fine unit. 150 points. 6-inch move. 5 wounds. 4 up save. Yada yada. It's a 1-cast wizard. It is Ishran. So remember, we need to have 1 Ishran in our list. So we're watching who's the Ishrin we're going to stick in our lists. That's the question we're asking, right? So we can get access to them sweet, sweet rituals. First of all the Ishrin dudes have a 5-up ward save now. Cool.
Yep.
I like that.
Nice.
So that's just a thing. Nice thing. His ability that you're taking him for is like his spell is fine.
Well, her.
Her
Just be
spell.
clear about that.
Thank you. Her spell is fine, but you're taking her for the Master of the Aethersea if this is the choice you want to make. If any units with this ability are part of your army, you can pick 2 different Ishrin rituals to influence the Aethersea during the battle instead of 1. So, for example, you could have the run and charge, the +1 to run and charge. There we go. In your run and charge round, and the 5-up ward in your high tide round, just as an example. Or the you can't shoot me unless you're within 12 inches, and the 5-up ward if you're trying to like I really need to get the defensiviest of defensiviest things going. And remember, you don't pick rituals until you're already knowing who you're fighting and what the priority, the turn order is going to be, and all of that. So this really gives you sort of super maximal choice on your selections of rituals.
Yeah.
Good ability.
She's fine. She's all right.
It's crazy to me that an ability that's sort of so good in this book is like, yeah, it's fine.
Like, my mind is elsewhere. That's
Sure.
the idea. Like, if you're focusing on her, you're like, oh yeah, I can think of different things. In my head, I'm thinking, you know what? One ritual is fine with a little asterisk, which we're going to talk about with the next guy.
Yes, absolutely. So let's talk about Brotan, the Warden of the Bro Ledgers. So he's
The
still
guy
got...
and his broctopus, by the way.
What's that?
The guy and his broctopus.
Yes. So he's still got his little octopus friend. Oktar is still around. I do like that we collapsed all of Oktar's attacks into a single line. Thank you for again, just a nice little usability thing. Appreciated.
Yep.
So again, 6-inch move, 5 wounds, 4-up save, 5-up after save. All good. But Lotan now brings the Catalog of Souls. Add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by friendly Idoneth Deepkin units wholly within 12 of this unit. Mounts not excluded.
Everybody's welcome.
Everybody's welcome in the catalog. Tay, the Achillean King, did you hate that everything except that bladed polearm was on 3s to wound? Don't worry, you're on 2s now, baby.
Yep.
Yeah, so a lot of good stuff that goes to 2 to wound. Notably, it is only melee weapons. It's not shooty reavers, so that is important. But when you want to get the chop on, the bite on, with some sharks, with some eels, with some Namarti, with a king, many of the offensive hammers you have in this book, Lotan's their best friend. So there you go. And he gets all of that. Sorry, I forgot the other ability. Well, I can't forget the other ability. Fount of Willpower. Once per battle, if this unit's on the battlefield at the start of your hero phase, you can pick 1 ritual from the Ishrin Rituals table and 1 friendly Idoneth Deepkin unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit. Until your next hero phase, the unit you picked is affected by that ritual in addition to any others it is affected by. Okay, so now you can pick your critical unit and give them the 5-up ward, or the +1 to run and charge, or whatever. Okay.
There were people that were discussing this, that they were saying, so can we give High Tide the 5++ to Namarti on round 1? No, you can't, because the ritual says they get 5++ during High Tide.
Right.
So the actual tide needs to be on, whether because whichever turn it is, or because the Achillean gave the High Tide. So you cannot just say, well, that one. No, the tide needs to be tied with the round as well. So you cannot just go 5++ on round 5. I don't know. It doesn't work like that.
Yep.
So yeah.
And all of that for the low price of 115 points. Fantastic.
Yep.
Fantastic. I would point out, by the way, his +1 to wound does affect himself.
Yep.
So he's Oktar is in fact 8 attacks on 3s and 3s, neg 1 damage. So, low tank, get in there and do a little bit of work in melee even against some weaker units. Oktar's gonna be beating the crap out of people. Fun stuff.
I love this guy so much. Like the Eidolon with Seed of Tides can move him where you want him. Like if you have a good call of where you want that 12-inch bubble of +1 wound to land. That's the thing about elf armies in AOS. You see that a lot, especially in Lumineth. That feeling of, oh man, I should have done X instead of Y, and that would be the correct choice. That would have been the correct choice. The fact that in LRL there's an answer to everything, but you have to have the brain function of an actual high elf to pull it off. That's how I feel they're thinking here as well. It used to be 8-inch bubble of wound, +1 wound on everything, go nuts. Or that's gone now, but there's still ways to do it. Like we're saying things, this is amazing. You do need to pull it off. Right? Let's be clear on that this, for me, this book used to be better, stronger. It is really strong, but it does need you to apply yourself. Let's say it like that.
Sure.
And of good players that have trained or played the book a lot, this will be a really, really strong book.
One thing I've been feeling a lot with AOS 3.0, and this could be the bingo card recency bias, of where rock, paper, scissors have always been obviously a thing in this game. Just feels like the rocks and paper and scissors have all become so much more accentuated in what they do. Rock's harder, paper's harder.
Yep.
And that's just the feeling that I've had in the game for some time. And that's what worries me. One of the elements that worries me about the state of this game. And about Idoneth as an example of, I love that they are a rock to the present scissors that we have out there. That's great in theory. And yet if they're going to rock, to a degree that represents be careful what you wish for. Anyway, that's kind of a whole other topic. That's kind of one of the things that I'm feeling when I'm looking at this book. And then that ties in, Konstantinos, to the sheer spectrum of what good players can get out of some of these books relative to your average player, and how they're gonna be a lot of players struggle with this book because they're just not going to be able to execute. They're going to get ran over. They're going, things are not going to be done in the right way, and they're going to get killed. They're not going to have a good time. But yeah, it's such a spectrum with a number of these things right now, I feel.
Yeah. Yep. No, I think that this book will single-handedly bring back spellcasting. That's how it feels. In a few months.
It will be meta impactful. I see absolutely. This will be the most impactful book to the meta sort of release so far. All right, let's talk about our other two Ishran friends here. The Ishran Soul Scryer and the Soul Render. So Pointy Man and Hooky Man, as we know them. So the Soul Scryer is, again, our off-board. We already talked about him some. It's 150 points. We know what he does. He takes units off. 2 units join him off in the reserve aethersea, and then he can pop them in wholly within 6 of the battlefield edge and more than 9 away from all enemy units. So
yeah,
less.
He lost the point, by the way. He's like a broken.
He's still a pointy man, but he lost the +3 he lost granting the +3 to charge. He's more or less now just an ambush option. That's what he is.
Yeah. I'm thinking you drop 20 Reavers and 2 Sharks with him. You deal about 7 damage to a 3+ save, 10 damage to a 4+, and I did add Lookout Sir to that. So 7 to 10 damage, not bad. Those things aren't going away, the 20 Reavers and the 2 Sharks. He's a good option. Like I said, what are you fighting to take this guy with you? Probably the answer is heavy magic at some point.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yep. And then the Soul Render is your Namarti returner, right, where he can hook their souls back into him. You can return up to 3 slain models to that unit instead of any. That's what he does. And he has the ward of 5 up, and once per battle at the end of the combat phase, you can pick one enemy model that has a wounds characteristic of 7 or less, and does not have a mount, and is within 3 inches. Okay. All right. Hold on. A lot of stuff to navigate here. Then I roll 2d6. Okay, got it. And if I roll greater than that enemy model's wounds characteristic, it is slain. So he can once again hook a hero to death. It's a funny thing. It's technically a model, by the way. It doesn't have to be a hero. I just think of it on 5 wound heroes all the time. But of course, it just has to be a model with a wounds characteristic of 7 who does not have a mount. So sure, it's fun. It's fun.
Potentially amazing. Situation.
And like we said, the battle shock happens twice in a turn now, so he's better. And so it's all right.
Yeah. He gets D3 or 3 if he's slain. It's the end of all battle shock phases. He does his return. Exactly. It's a really good point. Yeah. I think the little hook a thing and kill it is funny. I don't know how often that's actually going to come into play, but notably it can break coherency because it's happening at the end of combat.
On 4+ save with 5++ now with a 5+ word, and he has 4 attacks instead of 2. So he will probably, and it's a damage 2 profile as well. So he will deal some damage, and the Hangman's Knot can not break coherence because he's still within 3. They will be able to move around, I guess.
Well, he's doing it at the end of combat, so.
All right, feels like I don't like those. It feels like gotcha moments.
Sure.
Thank you, Constantinos. Oh, good man. I was about to give a lecture. All right, I won't give the lecture.
Yeah.
It's completely a gotcha moment. That's what that stuff is.
Hate these rules. Yes, it feels terrible, in my opinion, where you're incentivized to look for this opportunity. All right, I'm gonna shut up. I'm not gonna lecture. But yes,
I agree. I completely agree. They should stop writing stuff like this because it just feels like junk. Like you're beating people with the rules, not with your army. Like, oh, haha, when you piled in during your turn or removed casualties or whatever, you happened to forget to make sure that everybody had exactly, sort of the right number of extra coverage, and now you accidentally went out of coherency, whack, lose half your unit. Like, that's kind of a jerk thing.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Oh, well.
All right. Elithane the Ill-Fated and his Soul Raid. Do we need to talk about this at all? I didn't even read this.
Like, it's a great proxy for a Soul Render, if you want to run 2 of them. She's a very, very beautiful model. The whole box is top for Idoneth proxies. You make a couple of Namarti champions with the little ones. You will put Brotan on Crabnose, and you will win coolest army in every event you go, just because you have Brotan on the Crab. So that's what you do. Other than that, that's it.
Cool. I thought so. I didn't even bother to read it. I was just like, nope, not reading this. Next. Okay. Yeah. Ishlian Guard and Morsar Guard. I didn't put their points on here for some reason, but they're both the same points cost now. They're both 195. Okay. So I'm not going to talk about these guys. I'm just really quickly. I'll say they lost their reroll charge and have +1 to charge now. That's a relevant thing. They still mostly are the same stuff. Like they still have a Biovoltic Blast. They still have the Rend bonus and stuff. They still the defensive guard still have ignoring modifiers, positive and negative, and go to a 3-up save characteristic when they charge. Okay. Now, a lot of people, Constantinos, have said that eels are washed out. They're done. They're done for, guys. It's over. The age of the eel is past. Tell me why they're wrong.
Okay. Just a moment. Right. So, writing off eels is the most bizarre take I've heard these past few days. It's probably because their change to the fang attacks hasn't been noticed, because their fang attacks have changed. That sort of eel will not last long once games start rolling in. That's how it feels. Because I'm talking Morsar now. Let's leave Ishlin, the defensive eels. Let's leave them on the side. Talk these guys, the offensive ones. They were 195. They used to terrorize the boards, right? With IDK, they were the trademark. Feel bad. They got more expensive over the years to the point that they got to 195, and people were like, "Well, things are better now. There's reavers, there's sharks." Like thralls went to 2, but even before that, people didn't really use them that much, right? The thing is, they deal a lot more damage now. Because that one attack with the no rend D3 damage became 3 attacks, rend 1 D3 damage.
Yep.
So instead of 3 attacks, they have 9. And on the 6 eels, instead of 6, they have 18 Rend 1 D3 attacks that are on 3s and 3s. Mind you, we have the Eidolon that reduces save stacking. They still get the -2 Rend and damage 2 on the charge. You can get them to charge every single round you want. So you will be able to harness that power. And Lotan will buff their wounds. They can get a lot of attack. They used to have Bravery 6. Now they have Bravery 7. And the Standard Bearer gives them another plus. Like with the Sea Eidolon within 18, they are Bravery 11. So, and their Mortal Wounds app is there. That's our only Mortal Wound output from units that are not heroes. So the idea that, well, if they don't charge, they hit like a wet noodle. They're still wet. They do look like noodles. They don't fight like them. I put 2 sharks, 330 points, and 6 eels, 390 points. On the charge, eels deal 50% more damage.
So I've brought up your damage chart. I brought up because I know you prepared some stats, hammer damage. So here I've got the damage comparison between 2 Alopexes, 6 Ishlians, 6 Morsar, and 6 Morsar not charging.
All right, cool. So maybe take a look at the not charging one with the 2 sharks. It's just 1 damage less. 1 damage less on a unit that can move, run and charge, which means a maximum of 20 plus 2d6 plus maybe even 1 because of the ritual. Can do it every turn if you have the Achillean King. Will you have the Achillean King? We've already talked about it. He will always be there. So if a shark deals X damage, by the way, this damage includes the harpoon and the extra bite attack and the +1 to hit from the champion. I did put 2 sharks to have the champions in. So this doesn't have a lot of attack, but you will probably always have a lot of attack on these attacks. These are important attacks. You do need to play the game as well. The Warscroll is going to do it. So this 50% extra damage on the charge does not include the Mortal Wounds app, which is about 4 wounds or 6 wounds. So how does this thing that deals just 1 less damage than a unit of sharks is written off is beyond me. When it can kill a Maw-Crusher. Like I said, you send 6 in, he will stomp 1 out of existence. 5 of those will kill him. How?
You can go in Hunters. Just put them in Hunters too. You don't really need to be low drops in this army.
I love the 1965 points for a list because it allows you to get the +1 to wound whenever you want. And that is suddenly 25% extra damage if you go from a 3 to a 2. 25% extra damage. And the damage you see here does not have the +1 hit, nor the +1 to wound. So,
which is crazy because those are both very achievable bonuses.
It's simple. I don't understand why you're not doing. Like even the Achillean can give it to them if they're close. So even if you go against the Lord of Affliction, as the Lord Stinky, the Achillean King is probably there, or Volturnus, I don't know. Lotan can be there teleported and to give it to the mounts as well, which is the important one. So Ishlian have more consistent damage. They always deal more damage than sharks. They don't have the Mortal Wounds app. I didn't like the change of the Rendless, but it was probably needed because they were probably the best anvil in the game. Charge on a 3-up and then go all out defense, or you're a 2-up. Or you're close to the turtle, you're a 2-up, no rend.
Right.
So only things that dealt mortals could deal with those things in combat, but that's on you for using them against something like this. So on a heavy rend meta, maybe they will be more interesting. I don't know, I'm team Morsar all the way here. And with the Iron Rack choices, there is no way you will not see them. I'm not saying that every table is going to have them, but that's the important bit. They're still really good. They deal more damage than they used to do, but maybe you will go a different way. But I really cannot see the fact that, no, you will always take sharks. You will never take eels. I don't see that at all. That's not the book. That's bumping Warscrolls together. That's not how you play the game, though.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Morsar charging stat damage block is horrifying, right? Like, it's And that's without the mortal. That's without the biovoltic blast. Without the mortal wound proc. Yeah.
Nor the +1 to hit, +1 to wound. From a 3 to a 2 is, like everyone knows, it's huge.
Yep.
Yeah.
So put that back away. Go back to these guys. I agree. There's also the minor thing of your proc to D3 mortals also happens on a 5, not a 6, if you have more models in the enemy unit than in this unit. Which
That's why I went 4 or 6. It's 1d3 plus 2 or 2d3 plus 2. That's how it looks on average.
Yep.
So yeah, and also the Alopexes drop to 8 wounds. We'll get to that, but basically 2 eels deal the same damage as 1 shark, because 3 eels deal 50% more damage. And to go down to 1 eel to get worse than a shark, that's 8 wounds. That's a shark. So
I had to go look at something because Spark here said, if I remember correctly, the Soul Scryer was a priest. Is that still the case? Yes, I forgot he was a priest, but yes, he is still a priest. So that's cool. It's a cool thing. I completely forgot that was even there. So he does get a prayer.
On the Soul Scryer, if you do have a need for it, like I said, if shooting magic comes back more heavily, you can have a 7 reroll. You have the Flood Tide, Ishran Ritual +1, and then they have a built-in +1 on the Musician. So pretty good odds that you're going to get in on a 7+.
7 ain't bad. Especially now that, well, obviously you have the Soul Render there to help them reroll, but they also have a champion. They can reroll themselves with a command point. Another amazing thing about the book, it doesn't really have command abilities that you want to use.
Right.
You don't.
It is following that trend, yeah.
You don't spend command points. The High Tide thing that the king had, it's not a command ability.
Nope, it's just an ability. Just a thing he does.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep rolling. Let's talk about them sharks. Them sharks are 165. The notable thing about the shark is that they were 10 wounds for a little while, and now they're back to 8 wounds. We'll see if that sticks. We could be in another Marathi Rend situation here with shark wounds.
Could be.
Pinfeldorf, yes, this is the new book. So they are 14-inch move, 8 wounds now, not 10. Which I've seen people argue back and forth what's better, right? If it's 8 wounds, then it can get, the other bonuses that are reliant on being less than 10 wounds and yada, yada, yada. So like it can get the cover and stuff like that. My answer is, I don't know, man. There's arguments in both directions in this case. It's not a hero where it's so clear that being at 9 wounds is better than being at 10 wounds. There could just be an argument that like having more wounds is simply better on things like your sharks. Either way, both are okay. I don't think it breaks the unit either way. It's not a make or break situation to have 8 or 10 wounds. We'll see what they come down to. If you've got 2 in a unit, one of them gets to be a champion, so he gets +1 to hit. Fine enough. They get +1 to the attacks characteristic of their ferocious bites, which they have 3 of base. If they're within 6 inches of any enemy models that have any wounds or mortal wounds allocated to them, or within 6 inches of any units that have had any models slain in that turn.
Used to be 3, not 6. Interesting.
Yep. And so then they've got Now let's talk about and when if you take them in a unit, they can be coherent at 3 inches, which is cool. That's fine. Let's talk about the thing that actually matters here, which is the Razor Shell Harpoon Launcher. 24-inch range, 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, neg1, now D3 or D3 damage, right?
Yep.
Quite a lot of shooting power there. The net launcher can still make it so you don't pile in and is 3 damage. But simply having that many harpoon shots, it's not bad. It's not bad. That's what I'll say. And these guys are no slouch in melee, right? Like they really are a good all-around unit with a solid shooting attack and a good melee profile. Now, this last weekend, I ran Skaven against a Stormcast list. Okay? And I decided he wasn't running like the hardest Stormcast list. It was more of like a sort of fun list. So I brought a fun Skaven list. 3 Doom Wheels. Okay? Doom wheels get like D6 shots on 3s and 3s, neg 1 D3 damage. The average on that is 4, right? But it's much more swingy. And I will say, that shooting does some work. It's a good time. Okay. The Doom wheels were absolutely the MVPs of the game, by the way. I just drove all over all the enemy units and did mortal wounds to them. Just rolled over the top of them because all the little sequitors just driving over top of them. Anyways, the shooting attack is strong, and this thing has a much stronger profile in melee than something like the Doom wheel, right? So not only does it have basically the same high average shots on the same numbers, but keep in mind it's got plenty of synergy. We've talked about other things that could be adding to this. You know, if you've got sharks hanging out near different things, they can be getting, again, a lot of stuff doesn't affect the shooting. A lot of stuff we've talked about is melee only, but it can be affecting the melee, right? So if you've got him near one of the +1 to wound things, then stuff like if you've got him near Lotan, then you can be on 3s and 2s for your 6 and 3 or 4 attacks. Yeah. It should be noted that if you attack like a bloodthirsty shiver or something, or some unit of sharks, it's really interesting because you can unleash on the unit that comes into you, and you're really only trying to cause a couple wounds, because then you're going to trigger your ability even if they fight first. So not only do you weaken them, but you bonus yourself when you unleash. So.
They're really good. They're not as good as eels. Like that's the beauty of the book. It will be very dependable on your lists. If you want to go heavy on charging, eels will be what you choose. If you don't want to go charging, you'll go with sharks.
Right. Because they just have that shooting power, right? Like 3 of these guys are putting out 12 shots on even base 3s, neg 1, D3 damage. It's quite a lot.
Yeah. That Bravery 6 scares me so much to get 2 of them. Because there are so many things that accidentally lower your bravery.
Sure. Like
Chaos Marauders lowered by 2 or something, or Chaos Knights, something like that. So running around on a bravery 4, like that Island of the Sea cannot be everywhere.
Right.
But they're good. They're good. They're not the clear choice, and that's a win for the book. That's how I feel.
I agree. I think we're going to see some shark lists. I really do. I think you'll see some bloodthirsty shiver shark lists, because you really can get those guys buffed up, and it's that kind of unit that has an interesting and good potent combination of reasonable shooting power and melee power to back it up has traditionally performed pretty well, right? You think like salamanders or something like that, right? These are a very salamander-ish unit, but much more mobile.
By the way, Rob Johnson said about 6 Morsar with their coherency. They're on very, very small,
they're on the 60 by 35,
on the little one. So easy to put 6 in coherency. I've never had trouble doing it. So that's not going to be a thing. If when you lose 1, suddenly 5, the best number.
Right, yeah. Any pack of 6, you lose 1 guy, you're like, yay. Easy, riding on easy street now.
If you can do it with Gorgrantas, you will be able to do it with this thing that's like 3 times smaller.
Exactly. I mean, realistically, people do it with Varangard and Gorgrantas all the time, and those have much bigger bases. So, yep. Sporadicus says, would running a single Futhan Bloodthirsty Shiver still be okay? I think so. Yeah, I think there's absolutely a list there. 100%.
Like in my eels list, I do have 2 sharks.
Right. Yeah, I think they're like, if you're getting down to the end and you haven't put in some sharks and you're feeling happy with your list, that means it's shark time, because they're just going to be a good supplement to almost any other strat you're doing. They tend to be a pretty good supplement to it.
Every week is going to be Shark Week.
That's right. Tyler, any other thoughts on Dem Sharks?
Good. I'm trying to be quiet.
No, don't.
You're good. Don't be quiet. Talk. All right. Let's talk about the big Leviathan. Let's talk turtle. Turtle power. Okay, so 10-inch move, 16 wounds. Now 500 points. But it has 8 attacks with that harpoon launcher. Again, 3s and 3s, neg 1, D3 damage. So it's got 2 sharks worth of harpoon
Yeah.
power on it. That's the
You
way I think about
yeah.
it. It's it's good in melee. I don't want to pretend like it's not. It's a perfectly valid melee fighter. 2s and 3s, neg 1 4 damage, and then 2s and 2s neg 2 3 damage, 2 attacks. That's a good profile. Okay, like yep.
We did lose the reroll once to the mount attacks and the wound reroll once to wounds. It still has the on a 6 on the jaw. It deals 3 mortals, or it's 6 if it's a monster. And we lost all the rerolls, and so we cannot fish for 6s anymore.
Hey-o.
Yeah, it's been a while. So there are a few changes. I'm shell shocked. Not just shocked, but shell shocked by the turtle. That 500 points. It did get rend on the spears, and it did get D3 instead of 1 on the harpoon, and no changes on the mount. It's tougher to get the +1 to wound now, and their mortal wound charge became a stomp, which hurts, especially in Nautilus where you do want that -3 rend on your attacks. So they no longer do the mortal wound D6 on wounds of 1 or D3 on wounds of 2 or more. You will not see them in every list. You used to see them in every list after Morathi. No longer the case. No longer the case. That's how it feels. They still have their place. They're still fun. Like everything we talk about this book being really strong, you can play a list with turtles, and it's going to be super fun. And in having the Martyr list, you will see them for sure.
Yeah.
That's how.
And it's relevant to mention that the Void Drum still gives +1 to save rolls if you have wounds characteristic of 8 or less, which that's part of the shark discussion, right? And then as well, your Namarti get to add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by friendly Namarti units that target enemy units who are wholly within 12 of the turtle. So like if the turtle's up and in the mix, then the Namarti get +1 to hit them. So
That's why I like
it could be another source of +1 to hit.
That's why I like the 15. Turn that 12 into a 15.
It does make a huge difference. I mean, there's already a pretty big bubble coming off of a decent... Like, this guy's got a big base. But when you turn it to 15, it's crazy how much of the board that bubble is taking up.
100%.
Yep. Okay. Any turtle thoughts, Tyler?
Yeah, the 500 I think will be seen as a little expensive. Personally, I think that's about right for this piece. Turtles were pretty unaccosted previously, in my opinion. They were 380, right, Constantinos, previously?
380. Very undercosted.
Yeah, that was quite undercosted. I mean, I get, again, that it's one of those single pieces that with Mortal Wound magic could, if you got a lot of magic coming its way, if it's in range, probably it's going to want to be up in the enemy's face.
Damage on shooting attacks. It did double its damage, going from 1 to D3. And
absolutely.
One of the attacks from the spears. So it did get a little bit better, but losing the mortal wounds on the charge, that kind of hurts. It feels. Right. I feels.
Right.
I think that's top priority to go to 480, maybe 475 at some point in the future. I think the wound.
Right. If it's overcosted, it's not by much.
They're trying.
Yeah, I mean, he's still a strong, tough piece who gets a free mount trade, and it's again, I don't think I agree with you completely. By the way, Konstantinos, that you're not going to see these in every list, but you will see some. I think there are lists where it's a valid combo. I think somebody asked, Mandeli said, would you ever take 2 or Shudder 3? Sure, if you're memeing, it's a good meme list, right? I don't think it's going to be the super competitive choice because in the end, it's still just one big monster. Like it has no, extra objective control mechanics or anything like that. It's a good monster, but the bar for non-hero monsters is always tough. And 500 points it's a lot at a quarter of your army, right? And so, I think
non-hero monster in non-forge world, most expensive, and it got more expensive now.
Right. Yep. Okay. The Achillean Thrall Master hiding out back here, our Achillean hero, the dude who showed up in the box set. Master of the Thralls. This dude is a real sweet guy if you want to run thrall.list. So 6-inch move, 5 wounds, 4 up save, 7 bravery, all fine. The important part about him is at the start of the combat phase, you get to pick a little fighting stance for him. And then he gets that, and then he broadcasts that to units around him. Okay? So, Way of the Depths. You can reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made with melee weapons by this unit and friendly Namarti units wholly within 12. Melee weapons. Important to note. Way of the Riptide. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with a melee weapon by this unit or friendly Namarti wholly within 12 is 6, it's a double tap, so causes 2 hits. And then Way of the Vortex. Subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks that target this unit and friendly Namarti units wholly within 12. The only one that actually works on Reavers is the Way of the Vortex, because you can get -1 to wound them.
Something went really bad if that happens.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so here's a funny math thing. Way of the Riptide is better in most cases than Way of the Depths. Okay? Because, and you might ask why. Well, what if I'm on like 2s to hit? Isn't rerolling 1s better? Which, by the way, you're on 2s to hit. Let's just start there. You're going to be on 2s to hit. Okay.
They did not get the memo. We need to nerf the Idoneth Deepkin hits and wounds. They did not. Those guys did not get the memo.
No. Okay, so when you roll dice, you have an equal chance of achieving a 1 or a 6, right? Like, a 1/6 of the dice you roll are 1s, and a 1/6 of the dice you roll are 6s. We all understand that, right? Okay. Now, when you reroll a 1, you have a 5 and 6 chance for that thing to be a 2 or more. So it's an 84% chance to turn your miss into a hit, to gain 1 additional hit.
Yep.
Capped at however many dice you rolled. Right? Like, if you made 10 attacks, the most you can ever get is 10 hits.
Sure.
Okay. I understand that. Now, when you've got 6s or double taps, you have the same percentage chance to achieve 6s as 1s. I know it doesn't feel like that often when we roll our dice, but that is true. And every 6 automatically creates 1 whole additional hit, not 84% of a hit.
Yep.
And it can exceed whatever your max was, right? So you make 10 attacks, you can get 11 hits. Okay? So just to be super mathematically clear, it's clearly the funny thing about this to me is it tells me this did not get a mathematical development pass. Because I would have looked at this in 5 seconds, clocked that these two things that you made me choose between, that you're saying are equal choices, one of them is clearly better.
Yeah.
It's just mathematically superior.
Yeah.
So Way of the Depths has basically no purpose, and Way of the... Oh, I would also point out that, like, you don't have anything triggering on the 6. I should state that, because that could be an exception, right? Is triggers on 6. So I guess unless you're fighting an enemy Achillean king who's wearing the Seath armor, that's why I said in almost every case, because I could think of that one exception. If you send your thralls after the enemy Achillean king and he's wearing the Seath armor and he's like, haha, okay, don't Way of the Riptide in that case. Do Way of the Depths. Right?
Yeah. The thralls are risen,
Otherwise,
fighting their kings.
yes. If there's a palace coup, right, and the thralls rise up.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyways, yeah, go Way of the Riptide. It's simply better.
Yep.
Funny little journey into math there. All right. Thralls. I mean, we got to just talk about thralls. It's time.
Yep.
Okay.
It's true.
I guess that is true. Joel Graham did point out another situation. I hadn't thought about that one before the show because I forgot about the priest thing. But if you curse with the Soul Scryer on a unit, then yes, you'd go to rerolling 1s. But again, it's not like you're making a choice before the game. You get to do this in every round. So, or in every combat phase. So just in case there's ever something, then sure. In those edges of a corner, then yes, go to Way of the Depths. But otherwise, it's Way of the Riptide. All right, let's talk about thralls. These liquid hot murderers. I want to first start out by saying, screw you, Tom. That's number one. We're starting there. Okay. Tom's not even here this week. I'm coming in swinging on Tom because last week he was trying to defend. Daemonettes, who cost more points than thralls and have a profile that does not look like what I'm about to read, nor half, a quarter, a sixth of the synergies. Okay. So, thralls. 6-inch move, 1 wound, 5 up save, 7 bravery. Good stuff. And the champ gets an extra attack. Cool beans. Pretty normal stuff. 2 attack space, 3/3s, neg 1 damage. So a unit of 10 of them makes 21 attacks. Easy peasy. That magical 2-inch reach. That's right. Unfurl the banner behind me. Mission accomplished, as we saw in the box. There it is. Yay. Okay.
Yeah.
So they can reach over top of each other. Add 1 to the attacks characteristic of this unit's Landmari blades if the target has a wound characteristic of 1. So against other 1 wound things, they go to 3 attacks each. They make 31 attacks as a unit. They are choppy. Add 1 to the damage characteristic if the target has a wounds characteristic of 3 or more. So you ideally want to be fighting these guys with, like, liberators. That's your perfect thing. Slide right in there.
Yep.
Get them Vindictors in. That's the sweet spot.
Vandus and 15 Vindictors. Love
And
it.
you're good. Absolutely.
45, let's see, 30, 41 attacks. No, 15 times 3, 46 attacks. Sorry.
There you go. That might be like the one unit that could win out in a weird attrition war if they didn't get, like, if they were just kind of fighting against each other, if somebody didn't come up and, like, do negative save stuff or whatever to the Vindictors. Okay.
Yeah.
Because these guys are on a 5-up save. All right. But they're 130 points. So good. So good. Obviously, they're battle line. So obviously, you can take them in 10, 20, or 30. Now, it says 2 attacks on 3s and 3s. I don't even read it like that. I'm just going to go ahead and read that as 2s and 2s because that's what it's going to be with your choice units you're trying to attack with. Whether that be because of, like, Lotan.
Lotan. Yeah.
Yep.
The Storm Eidolon will do it.
The Storm Eidolon would be another one who can do it. Yep. Absolutely.
Yep.
So you got multiple sources of +1 to wound. Now, they cannot get the Achillean +1 to hit because they're not Achillean.
No. Sad.
But obviously, you can easily all-out attack them. Or if you are running a turtle, they can get +1 to hit from the turtle.
And a save.
And a save. Yes, indeed. And +1 to save. So I will be interested to see if the Namarti heavy lists on balance end up including turtles, like a turtle, because I do think it could work really well to just kind of gum up the army and then your thralls just go chop everything around it. So I'm not sure.
I mean, one is overpriced, the other is underpriced. So
Right.
yeah, it
On
works.
balance, you still get a good deal.
They probably deal too much damage. The fact that they get buffs from everything, like they even get a 5++ from High Tide. You can do that with low, and that still buffs them with a wound.
Yep.
And or the shipwreck that we're going to talk about later.
Yep.
Like they're your cheapest screen. That's the funny part. They're your cheapest screen. You put them forward, your opponent kills them, and you lose 130 points. Boo-hoo. Or they don't kill them, and suddenly they're in a world of hurt, right? Like that 2-inch reach, that changed them. Like they didn't get the memo. Maybe they got the memo, they could not read it, they don't have eyes. So that's the only thing that did not change in terms of damage on them. I like the fact that they're slow. In this book, 6-inch run and charge when you want it.
Sure.
Slow. So they lose mobility that the flyers have, but they deal so much damage. It's so stupid how much damage they deal. I did send you some damage.
Yeah, let's look at the damage of thralls. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that is without the +1 to hit, +1 to wound. I did not put that in, nor the exploding.
Here we go. Oh, is this Reavers or is this meant to be Thralls?
It should say 30 thralls. If I wrote 30 Reavers, it should say
You
30
wrote 20
thralls.
old Reavers, 20 new Reavers.
No, there's one more. There's one more.
Oh, I see. Okay, sorry. 30 Reavers. I got it. On the average damage comparison table. Yes. Okay, I got it. I got it up now. Sorry, I missed which one it was.
Yeah. So if you look at that,
This damage is wackadoo, man. This is wild stuff. And remember, they can be in Domhain, where they can, like, fight, blow the thing away they're fighting, charge, do it again, all on ASF. Okay, continue.
Yeah, this is not the +1 to hit, +1 to wound exploding sixes. This is unbuffed like the rest. Like you see there, the sharks, 2 sharks, 330. You see the Morsar charging, 390. And then you see the 30 thralls, 390. Same points as the eels. That red skyscraper looming over the rest. That's thralls.
It's so insane.
Not all 30 will fight, but who cares? Especially when you buff them with a +1 hit or +1 wound.
Right.
That thing is gonna skyrocket so hard. It's too much. It is too much.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
that damage is just...
Domhain, that mad thing, that wave of Nomardi going in. I'm thinking, well, they will still do the work without Domhain. I can still bring the rest of my toys. That's how I'm like, yeah, there will be Domhain lists, but you will see them on every other list.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah, Thralls are, again, keep in mind this is all 30 fighting, but if you had 20 fighting, which it is quite reasonable for you to get 20 to fight against some units, because they're 2 entry each.
Yeah.
Then you're easily going to hit similar numbers when they're on 2s and 2s. And then keep in mind, again, the dude can be right around there behind him going, hey, also 6s are double taps, which is going to be a lot of extra hits. You know, so like it's because you're making 41 attacks with a unit of 20 against a unit of 3 or more. So you're talking 2 damage attacks coming in with 41 attacks. 6s are double taps, so you're getting 6 extra hits there. They're on 2s, neg 1, 2 damage.
Forget about it. Yep.
So it's a lot of damage. Crazy Horse, this is just from Stats Hammer. If you go to Stats Hammer, AOS Stats Hammer, if you just search AOS Stats Hammer, you can put in, you have to program in all the units, but it will generate these visuals.
Yep.
So, yeah, they're real good. And yes, again, they can have easy bonuses to hit, to wound, 6s double tap, fight twice, always strikes first, 5-up ward, right? Like, it's just potential.
So,
again, will they ever be in the perfect situation where they have all of these? I mean, yeah, sure, sometimes, rarely, maybe. It doesn't matter. They don't need every one of them, right? The point is there's so many synergies they're just bathed in that they're going to get enough to do the work, right?
Yeah. There's a question, what's their damage against 1 wound enemies? Still a lot. I didn't send it because I could not fit all of them. It's still quite a bit. Quite a bit.
Shockingly high is the answer. Still.
Yeah.
Not this high, because the 2 damage certainly sparks it up a bit, but it's still really high. Yeah.
True.
Again, especially if you factor in any of the other bonuses, they almost certainly will have. Because this army is incredibly resilient to losing its buff pieces because of things like Forgotten Nightmares, right? Or the ritual or stuff like that.
It will be quite easy for them to be on a 4+ save, ignore Rend 2, maybe, or even Rend 3 at some points with cover and with a turtle, and even with a spell that ignores Rend, like worsens Rend. There are ways to keep them safe. But like I said, even if they kill them, who cares? They're 130 points. You will have more if you want to play heavy Namarti.
Yeah, so, I have to wonder if like the 10-man missile units don't also come into some effect, right? Where you can just have like lots of 10-man skirmishing around, just chopping. I don't know. I think that I think there's arguments for 10, 20, or 30 in all regards. Based on certain lists, you're depending on the other support pieces you build into your list.
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay. Ziggy says Cries and Chaos Warrior or Chosen or Knights or any unit. Yeah, you ain't wrong there, Ziggy. My God, these guys just like, yeah, it's not a great day. Okay. Cool. So yeah, Thralls are super scary. That's the take-home point. Yes, Spark Hero, next week we're talking about the angry, naked ginger baby dwarves. Okay. Namarti Reavers. 170 points. Now, just simply with the Whisper Bow, single profile, 2 attacks, 18-inch range, 3s, neg 1/1. So lost kind of the extra stuff. Their champion gets a bonus melee attack, exactly what I was hoping for Christmas. Thank you. You do get +1 to hit if you're within 9 inches of your target. So you
negate.
natively go to 2s and 3s. This is probably more where shooting should be. Let me just say that. This kind of cost. And yeah, I don't hate these guys. I think they can still have a place. There's so much other that's good here, but I think these guys are still perfectly valid. Yeah. Which, this feels like where shooting should exist. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I love Reavers. They've been my MVP for a while now. It's the only unit I've ever painted 60 of. 60 Reavers. No, that's not true. I have painted 60 Blood Reavers. But they're also Reavers, yay. So there you go. Look at that.
You only paint 60s of Reavers. Yes, correct.
Yes, exactly. So they're probably still perfectly fine with their shots. 2 shots at 18 inches is pretty good with an 8-inch move. 3s at 3s run 1. The 170 means that 20 of them cost 340. The old War Scroll was 115 per 10, but 30 Reavers used to do as much damage as they do now. Right. 20 of them. Basically, you just lost 10 models. You need to paint 10 less. And you lost 10 wounds. That if your Reavers get hit, what's happening to the rest? So, fine, whatever. And if they can go to 2s and 3s, which is nice. And the thing is, they used to be amazing. The thing that we saw with the Thralls earlier, that's how Reavers were after Fury of the Deep. That's how they were. 2s rerolling 1s to hit and 2s to wound. The difference between that and today's 2s no rerolling 1s, 3s, is 35% efficacy. 35% means for every 3 models that you have, 1 lost its way. So it's 65% damage of what they used to do. And they used to deal too much damage. That. So they're probably good. They're in the losers of the book. They had to be. They don't get they don't get buffed by the wound thing. So, and that's a good thing, I think. Like I said, I've only been asked not to bring Archeon to a one-dayer once in the summer. And then I was asked, can you not bring Reavers? And I was saying, yeah, I wasn't going to bring them anyway. Because I saw the writing on the wall. I picked up a Lotan 3 weeks ago for $3, your currency. You can see the writing on the wall with some things. Okay. So, yeah, I did sell 30 of them, actually. I did sell 30 Reavers.
Amazing.
So, yeah. Because I wanted to sell 20, but the person wanted 30. Okay, there we go. You're lovely. And
I love the fact that we've just decided that these kind of shooting units in the game are 170. Yep. Sentinels, 170. Bliss Barbs, 170. We're going to talk about Auric Hearthguard next week, 170, right? This is it, folks. This is what shooting units like this cost now. They're 170. We've just priced them all at 170.
Yeah.
But there's still wild inequity between the efficacy of those different units.
Yep.
So yes, these guys did lose a lot of the synergy. Not that they have none. There's still some out there, of course. They can still get the 5-up ward. They can still get +1 to hit off of the turtle. That still works on them, right? So not that. Yep, they can still get +1 to save from the turtle.
Running and shooting is fine.
Yep, they can still run and shoot. So there's still a lot of different synergy around them. It's just not as much to put them, as you mentioned, onto the like mathematical paradigm where they were just darkening the skies before, right?
Yep. Yeah. And I'm thinking like if this War Scroll was in another book, inside another book, it would be picked up a lot.
Right.
But not in this one. Not as much, it feels.
Finally,
That's how
we
it
end
is.
on the Gloomtide Shipwreck. You can set it up when this faction terrain feature consists of 2 scenery pieces. When you set it up, you can set it up to 2 scenery pieces touching, so making 1 boat. Or you can set them up more than 3 inches from each other, so anywhere that isn't right next to each other, like on each side. Right? If you set them up touching, they form 1 large Gloomtide. If you set them up more than 3 inches from each other, they form 2 small Gloomtide, which is then going to matter with how many people you can garrison. So that's what that's going to mean. Defensible. If it's a small Gloomtide, then it can be garrisoned by up to 5 Idoneth Deepkin models with a wounds characteristic of 5 or less that do not have mounts. If it's a large one, it's 10 Idoneth Deepkin models with a wounds characteristic of 5 or less that do not have mounts. And then importantly, Guardians of the Deep, Idoneth Deepkin units that do not have a mount, which is not a lot of different units, by the way, a lot of mounts in this. While they are wholly within 6 of this terrain feature, they get a 5-up ward. As long as there are no enemies also within 3 inches of the shipwreck, because that turns it off.
It doesn't say enemies, so allies beware.
Oh, this is true. Yeah, you're right. No, yeah, you can't have non-Idoneth Deepkin standing within 3 inches of the thing.
Oh, that's interesting.
Those are racist, you know that.
Now, obviously, this is what I talked about earlier. We mentioned the artifact in the Ishran list, where you can just throw out a shipwreck, which does give you the potential to, like, ship to block, throw a ship forward, where all your thralls are going to be. They all huddle around the boat, and now they've got like a 5-up ward in case something turns against you or whatever, right? If you don't win the priority, like it kind of, there's some interesting ways you can set up with the bonus boat if you want, but in general, it's a boat that gives you a 5-up ward. That's going to be the play. So,
Yep.
So there you go. And yeah, I mean, if you don't have, what you're going to put in a small shipwreck is just characters, for reasons, I guess. Because you want even more protection against shooting. You want to just really just make sure that under no universe can anyone ever hurt you with shooting. You stay away from my son. Okay. All right. Let's talk lists.
Yeah.
Oh, and then here's all the points. Yeah. Okay. So you brought us 2 sample lists. Tyler, I'm interested. I want your flash feedback on these lists, okay? So, Here we go. The first one I did is the 1-drop, and then the second one is the many-drop, Constantinos. So Constantinos wrote these lists. So take us through the list. The first one is obviously Iron Rack, as you mentioned earlier. So take us through it. You want to walk us through this, or do you want me to read the units?
You'll see them in a moment, I guess, right?
Yeah, they'll come up. It should be up now. You might be a few seconds behind. But yeah, so I'll read them real quick while yours is catching up. Achillean King, with, of course, the Bladed Polearm and Unstoppable Fury, Armor of the Sithai, and Void Shell Darkness, the build we talked about earlier. Lotan, the Man, the Eidolon of Mathland, the Aspect of the Sea, so our sea boy with the Steed of Tides. 6 Morsar Guard, 3 Morsar Guard, 10 Thralls, 2 Sharks. And what is this sneaking in but 2 Dracothian Guard Fulminators, all wrapped up in a battle reg for a 1-drop. Boy, those Stormcasts, they get around, even under the ocean. So what's your general plan here?
You're asking Tyler or me now? Sorry.
You, Constantinos, go. What's your general plan?
I did put the Fulminators in because I had them. I wanted to use them. And this is a list that I made after a couple of days of reading the book. And it's 1965, which means that +1 wound would be able to be probably used, right? At 1965. And again, like a 3+ to a 2+ is 25% more damage. So you would like that. It's Iron Rack, the one that caught my Johnny interest.
This stick and move, yep.
Like I was thinking that 10 Thralls, I'm going to start with the Fulminators. it could be 30 thralls instead. Because 230 points plus 35 points, it's 30 thralls at 1995. But let's talk this list. Basically, with Iron Rack, you will send those 6 Morsar to kill a target, whatever it is. Turn 1, I killed a Stonehorn, just because I could, right? I gave away the turn. They like literally inched closer, and then I could hit everything I wanted. At turn 1, I killed that Stonehorn with those 6 eels. If there's a smaller target you wanna go, you can just send the 3 Morsar in. Why not? It's still like 10 damage to a 3+, something like that. You will have the Eidolon teleporting around, spreading the -2 saves, which is pretty cool. Lotan can be sent wherever you want him, so you get the +1 wound on everything. The Alopexes will shoot. It can shoot anything at 24 inches. I did like the Fulminators for the mortal wounds. It's something that the army is missing generally. So that's why I got it. Like, everything in this list hurts. And you get to lose stuff. And you don't mind. You lose 2 sharks, you have 9 eels left. Like, the thralls are behind. The Fulminators are behind. The Achillean King is waiting for his turn 2. So when we played the game and I won priority at turn 2, I actually gave it away because my opponent was ready to concede. Because you cannot withstand the fact that there are now so many sharks and eels and the king on the board, with the thralls just biding their time. And so I gave it away and he killed the 6 eels. I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do? Turn 2, the Achillean King comes in on high tide, being crazy with fury, with extra attacks, fighting first on D3. The Eidolon again will give the -2 saves, or give a Mystic Shield. Why not? Whatever. So what I'm doing on this one is basically playing with sort of a scalpel.
Yep.
I'm seeing threats, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna remove that threat. I get to remove that threat next turn, because round 2 is run and charge, by the way, and I did use the +1 to charges and runs. I didn't use the can be shot.
Because against the ogres is what you didn't need anything else, yeah.
I brought the armor of the Sith Eye, even though he didn't have any 6s. And so, yeah. Well, Ziggy, I did bring the Fulminators because I wanted to paint the spears. I'm on my non-metallic metals part of the journey. So like, oh, this is a nice spear, I can paint it. And I painted it, so I took him, sue me. But again, if you want to play against 30 thralls, I can leave the 2 horses at home.
Sure.
So, yeah. But
yeah, what's funny about this to me is everything in this is a threat.
Yeah, everything. There's
Except
nothing like
Lotan.
what do you get hit? Lotan is he's not going to be visible. He's never going to be in the front line, so he's not going to get shot. You can put him somewhere that he's not visible, so you cannot actually cast spells on him. The Eidolon will never die. That's something we didn't mention before. It's like Xerxes whipping the Hellespont 2,500 years ago because the river broke its bridges. That river is still there. That part of water is still there 2,500 years later, because that thing will heal D3 from the spell, from casting a spell. It has another D3 actual healing spell. It has the heroic action of bravery of 10. You can even have the life swarm. That's 5 D3 maximum. I didn't even bring the priest in. That thing is never going to die. So just put it around. Let it be shot or whatever. You don't care. They will, this is a 3+ 12 wound on a 5+ ward. This is a Stonehorn we're talking here. That's the Stonehorn has 13 wounds. This has 12. But it heals like crazy. This thing will never die. So everything, like you said, is a threat, either direct or through buffs.
Yep.
So this is my right now competitive list. If there was a tournament tomorrow, I would probably take something like that. I'd have to ponder the idea of the Fulminators or the Thralls. That's it. I do like the Sharks, and maybe 20 Reavers would be able to make the cut for more shooting, but for now, the Sharks are fine. So this is what Idoneth do. They can be anywhere they want. They're super fast, and the damage that you get to decide to do can be off the charts.
How do you think this would do against what you would consider a competitive, really top competitive Thunder Lizard list?
That's the idea about the reavers, because they already have damage 1. So the fact that all your damage due goes down to 1, or your D3 goes D3 minus 1, that hurts. And yet, running the numbers, especially with the Eidolon, because if you play Thunder Lizards, what's their unbinding? How good is it? With the spell negating saves, you will still be able to crack those shells. When I played against like a three lizards, Thunder Lizards list a couple of weekends ago, I literally went and killed everything else. Skinks, heroes, whatever there was. Left those 3 guys with the Fulminators. I'm like, when it's your turn, you will shoot the Fulminators, and I don't care. So I literally cleaned the board from everything else. And he had like 3 big dinos sitting around looking kind of silly. So that's how you should play this one.
Makes sense. Yeah, right. So when I look at this list, as Vince said, it's all threats essentially, and it's very fast. And you have a couple of things that give you the ability to turn off shooting. So you can choose the ritual, and then you have the arm of the Sithai, which is amazing. And we've talked a lot about that and the benefit that provides in terms of the Kelly King being able to turn off mortals that are proccing on 6s and then safe stack pretty well to a lot of, mostly it's -2 rend, as good as it's going to get. And that's long strike. So that's generally the most you're going to have to worry about. Otherwise, it's a lot of -1 rend, Judicators, Snake Bows, Bastillodons, and so on. So I would think, like, one of my base concerns about maybe this is be careful what you wish for, and that, we need a correction to the meta. I do worry that this is too hard of a rock to the scissors, in that just with the basic pattern that I'm seeing of these armies that you can build, you have this natural pattern of round 1, I turn off shooting, right? And particularly if you can let your opponent go first. Like if you go with the 1-drop, that might be a really good reason to go 1-drop, so that you let them go first. They then have to decide what they're going to do. They're probably not going to do much in terms of impacting you, killing stuff. Then bottom of 1, you move up, like you do an auto run 6. Maybe you have a run and charge, but you move things in the middle of the board.
Yep.
Right. And then if you double, like you could be in a position, like you might be able to even give away round 2 to where positioning was, you've got enough in terms of your core pieces, you've got them screened out. One thing you'd have to worry about is teleporting, like 15 Snake Bows teleporting, or dog strikes that were off the board, coming in, dropping in, looking for a target, a spot where they can target. I think dragons might actually be one of the main challenges in terms of what we have in the meta right now, because the mortal wounds, if they spike the mortal wounds, they can fly over, pretty good movement, etc. But anyway, the point being that it feels like a lot of these lists, you're just going to have the means of having too many threats that will overwhelm a lot of these lists in the meta. And then the other side of this is melee has sometimes been the counter. Like I've often heard Jordan talk about how many he's found with Idoneth that it's melee armies, and obviously Mortal Wound Magic, which we talked a lot about, but other good melee armies can be the challenge against Idoneth. I worry that equation may have changed a little. I don't know. I'd be curious to see how that plays out. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that in particular. This in relation to other melee armies. Are these guys like going to trump a lot of the other melee armies in the meta with what you're seeing right now?
I'm first of all, the thing about dragons and thunder lizards and all the rest of the things that you said are the problems in the meta. And erratas are not that far away. Like when we're talking about what are you going to do about dragons? The answer is, well, what can anyone do about dragons apart from GW fixing them? Not nerfing, but fixing at some point, somehow. As for the being deep strike behind your lines, what you said is the important bit. What are they going to shoot? Everything works. There is no backline. There is no backline there. Like everything is a threat. Everything can work technically independently because your buff pieces move so fast, 14 inches, or teleport with big bubbles. So you don't really mind that part. And I have never had trouble with melee armies, exactly because you can put the hurt wherever you want.
Yeah.
Like, if melee Alpha Strike is a problem for Idoneth, which I don't think it's going to be, but mileage may vary, you can turn the tides and have high tide on turn 2. So suddenly the Alpha
and
got,
that's
I've tried some things. I tried like Nurgle. I had my friend say, "You have 10 Blight Lords and you're Lord of Affliction. Just rush me. I want to see what happens."
Yeah, that's a great example. Yeah.
So I am trying things like that. I am seeing, and one thing that I think is important is you do see a lot of Seraphon. You do see a lot of Stormcast. But Idoneth are not an existing army in the sense of it was there before Age of Sigmar. People have had Seraphon for a long time. There have been old Seraphon players that are now new. You don't really see that many, like this saturation of armies. Doesn't exist when we're talking KO, for example, or Idoneth.
Right.
This is a new army. And apart from players that are flavor of the month players, they're going to be like, okay, this is the new filth.
Right.
They're not the good players, you know what I mean? Like, there will be some, but those really good players have their own armies that they already play and they're already feeling comfortable with. So in that sense, it's going to be a great meta choice, but it's not a niche exactly, but at the same time, it is sort of a niche army. Like Lumineth, you might say it's a new army, but there used to be high elves in Warhammer. So I'm feeling that there might be a little bit of a rush because everything works in this army. But that's my feeling. I'm feeling that they've always been gatekeepers, and that's what this army is going to be. It's going to be a great gatekeeper army. And for those who love it, and I do, I love Idoneth, they will have a fantastic set of tools at their disposal.
Yeah. I want to make sure we talk about the other list too here before we call it a day, because you also built kind of a fun list for us, right? Like one that's a little more on the just kind of casual side where you got some interesting stuff going on. So this list is your Nautilar list. So here again we've got the aspect of the sea up top. We've got the Achillean Thrallmaster. We've got Lotan, 10 thralls, 10 thralls, 10 thralls, turtle, Emerald Lifeswarm. So we've got a little hero clutch, our standard 3x10 thralls, as chaff / perfectly capable punch, and then two big turtles, to go behind them.
Yep. I did make this list as a fun one. I have a second turtle that's unpainted. It's not even primed, but it's built. And I was looking at it like, can you make a 2 turtle list? Because 3 turtle list, I don't think so. But 2 turtles could be fun. Like fun, not take it to a tournament, but take it to a one-day.
Fun.
Yeah. There are 30 thralls in this, and we already talked about thralls. And suddenly you have the things that everything buffs them here. So the Thrallmaster gives them exploding 6s. The turtles give them +1 to hit and +1 to save. Brotan gives them +1 to wound and another ritual when they need it. And I thought, what if we put the second spell as an enhancement? So I did put Arcane Tome on the Thrallmaster, which I think is a good choice, actually, for the Thrallmaster, the Arcane Tome. So the Eidolon has Steed of Tides for the teleport itself or the 2 heroes, and also Pressure of the Deep, which is the take that model and kill it on a roll of more than its wounds, while the Thrallmaster has the Corrasion, -1 rend, so you get to have his thralls fight something that's -1 to wound and -1 to rend, if you want to give them a little bit more defense. And also counter current, so no charge, no half charge and half run rolls on something. Yeah. So all 4 lore spells are there. And it's the Endless Sea Storm command trait, so if that aspect of the sea does cast spells on a 7-up, it gets to go on. So you go Steed of Tides, Pressure of the Deep, Mystic Shield, Arcane Bolt, Metamorphosis, Emerald Lifeswarm, and then the Clawing Sea Mists, and the Tsunami of Terror. Look at that. It's 3 o'clock in the morning here. I did remember all of them.
Good job. You got to, like, that's how deep he can go if he keeps rolling them 7s.
Yep, you can go on. And so, a lot of spells in a list with 2 big monsters, and with 10, 3 times 10 infantry. Sort of mixed arms. Not too much shooting. No, never mind. There are 16 shots on D3s from the turtle. There is actually shooting there. And the turtles are in Hunters of the Heartlands because they're no longer behemoths. They're battle line. So you cannot roar them or you cannot do whatever monsters' actions do, but they do get the -3 rend. And so, and the Life Swarm is there to bring back thralls or to heal the turtle, which the Idling can still heal the turtle. That's something that Idoneth has lacked, healing. So that's nice to have again. It does help with the resiliency we talked about. So, and yeah, that's it.
Nice.
It's a fun.
It's fun. Yeah, I like it.
That's
It's
great.
for people who want to run 2 turtles. I think this is a nice look at what that could be. Right. I think it's really fun. It's still got some interesting punch. It's going to have some fun. It's, as you said, it'll look cool on the table, like super cool as, right? Because you got your big Eidolon guy, you got 2 big turtles, you got a bunch of the little guys running around, some heroes to back them up. Yeah,
Like
it's fantastic.
School of Fish, the turtles. You see the turtles in the School of Fish as the Namarti. Like
Absolutely. They're the
course,
little remora hanging on to the big giant great white, as it were. Yes.
Exactly. Yep.
Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Well, this was really good. Overall, I think, very interesting book. I'm happy to see the internal balance really improving in the books a lot. Like I said, we've still got some stuff we got to take care of with Stormcast. But if you look at a lot of the armies, like, they nailed Ironjawz out the gate and then ruined it with the pig change, but it was perfect out of the gate. You look at Nurgle, you look at this book, right? You see good internal balance. I do worry a little about the fact that this book is on the higher end of the power curve, and then probably being catapulted by the fact it's hitting like its perfect meta, right?
Yeah.
Where it's just showing up with a lot of answers. But time will tell. I am happy about the book overall. It doesn't feel badly designed. I'll say that. The points costs, I don't really look at a lot of them and say they're way out of line, except for the trolls are too cheap. Leviathan's a little too expensive. Most of the rest of the stuff feels pretty right. Aspect of the Sea might be a tiny bit too low. Aspect of the Storm might be a tiny bit too high. They probably need to like meet in the middle somewhere. But it's little stuff, right? It's little stuff. Nobody's like Stormcast Dragon initial launch points wrong.
We should mention some allies, by the way, because that pool changed.
What's that?
We mentioned some of the allies. There have been some
yeah,
changes.
sure. I didn't even look at it. We can go back up. What is the allies? Cities of Sigmar, Daughters of Cain, Lumineth, Stormcast, and Sylvaneth.
So Lumineth are in. Cities of Sigmar used to be only elves. Now it's all of them. So my choices have been obviously Fulminators. It's a good choice to do some mortal wound damage, and they're quite anvily, and they deal a lot of damage. Fulminators are whatever, everybody knows them now. And Aether Wings are always nice if you just never want to get shot.
Just really make sure.
I do like a Valinor. I do like him as the replacement monster for the turtle.
Wow.
I
Interesting.
do like him because he gives -1 to hit on everything within 12. So that's always nice. And also he's 5 attacks or 6 attacks, damage 5 or damage 6, whichever way it is. They have rend 1, which is the issue, as I understand.
Yeah.
And now he can be put in an army where rend might not be that important, or save stacking might be kind of...
Yeah, where that rend 1 can still actually do work. Yeah.
With the wet theme and say fluid. So it could be an interesting choice of Valinor.
Yep.
As a monster.
And obviously there's no Fire Slayer or KO allies, because Fire Slayers are fire. You can't put fire in water, and KO people are in the sky. They can't go down in the ocean, so it's, literally the separation of the horizon, There's nothing they can do to get in there. They can't be friends with each other.
Yeah. Frostard, obviously, very good choice for the minus.
Good. Yeah, good shot by Joel there.
So what else is there? I know that people love their Sylvaneth screens from the Revenants. They're very cheap. Shadow Warriors were always nice. You can just put something wherever you want. Phoenix
Yeah, I know
Guard.
Rob was talking about using like heart renders in a list just to hold for a drop that can be off board and just, more drop movement potential. I do think that, as you mentioned, tree revs for the toot, right? Something like that. Yeah, there's potential for a couple
I
of
don't
allies
think
like that. The cheap
allies.
allies.
I don't think they will, but they can. So that's nice.
But they can.
So Doc coming out, let's say in 2 months or 3 months for the Skaven. Yeah, no, sorry, never mind.
Let's do 2 months for Doc and Night Haunt, and then 3 months. Let's go early. It's an early summer. That's what I want.
Yep.
So cool for the summer.
It's always nice. No, I think it's, it's a great book. Great book.
All right.
List builder's dream, definitely.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're Johnny, you like synergy, you like playing with lists, you like building lists, I think you're going to be very happy with this book. Like, very, very happy with it. All right, everybody. Oh, good.
If you like corn and you're feeling sad, try out Idoneth.
If you're a fan of Corn or Slanesh but want to play a better version of both of those armies, go over to Wet Elves.
True.
There you go.
Love there.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much, Konstantinos, buddy. I was so happy to have you on to do this. And whenever they do release Corn, rest assured we will be bringing you back. So you're up for that one as well. All right. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching. Don't forget, hit like, hit subscribe, do all those fun things. Also, don't forget the Patreon is up and live, so you can go check that out if you want to support the channel. New merch in the merch store. Don't forget to have your vote cast in the Team Tyler versus Team Tom war that will continue. We will determine a final winner at Adepticon. So you got to get in before that.
Continue to undercut your nonsense. I can't wait to get my Team Tom t-shirt and wear it every episode. All right.
Also, don't forget, we're going to be live at Adepticon if you're there. That is to say, we will be doing a show in front of real human beings with an audience. So look forward to that at 10 p.m. at Adepticon, 10 p.m. Central Time. Thank you, everybody, so much for watching. Super fun reviewing this book. And next week, we will be talking Fire Slayers. But until then, as always, we'll see you next Wednesday.